Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for the Township Board meeting of September 23rd. If we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll start with, tonight we actually have two public comments. So the general public comment is in the beginning, but we also have some public hearings. Actually, we'll have three public comments. So for each agenda item that's part of a special public hearing, we want you at that moment to come up during that time. So we'll reopen. This is just general public comment, but if you're here for South Bloomfield Highlands or any of the, considering the site plan land use, either of those two, we ask that you hold until we open that public hearing, so yours will be on record with that agenda item. So right now, we'll open the regular public comment.
Thank you. Mike McCready, 4957 Bloomfield Ridge. Good evening. As of today, Danny Walsh has failed to file her post-primary finance report as required under state law. The reports were due on September 5th to show what donations were given to Danny as a candidate for supervisor. Last week, due to the length of the delinquency for her failure to file, Danny's campaign was referred to the Michigan Attorney General's office for review. This is our Bloomfield Township supervisor that has responsibility to follow state law and township ordinances. By not following these laws, it shows a lack of transparency and responsibility by her. This is unacceptable. I really feel, Danny, you need to recuse yourself for any future votes until this is resolved. I think it's the best thing for the township, best thing for you and your campaign. Also, recently the supervisor presented and the board approved an updated administrative fee schedule that is tied to special assessment districts, or commonly called SADs. These large fees are completely new to the township. This adds a lot of additional dollars that our residents are forced to pay alongside an SAD. I learned a long time ago, a fee by the government is just another word for a tax. I find it interesting under Danny Walsh, taxes have gone up, water rates have increased substantially, and key personnel have left the township for other municipalities. All of this needs to stop. Danny Walsh has continually blamed previous administrations as to why she has failures. The previous administration left the township in an excellent financial position. I learned long ago, when things continually go wrong, maybe it's time to look in the mirror. Now is the time for change. High taxes, high water rates, additional fees, personnel leaving. We deserve better in Bloomfield Township. I also want to acknowledge the police and firemen here tonight. They are the true heroes of our community. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to comment on general public?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shadia Martini, and I'm running for state representative for this district. I'm from 1717 Heron Ridge Drive, so this is home. I am an architectural engineer and an MBA from U of M, and I'm a small business owner, a real estate broker, and a builder. So I am a housing expert, which is really needed in Lansing. I just wanted to introduce myself and thank you to our firefighters in the back. Thank you so much.
Would anyone else like to comment on general public?
My name is Mark Antockley. I live at 1550 Georgetown Drive. I'm running for township trustee. I'm concerned a little bit about the lack of transparency, especially in payroll and vouchers. We have $1.7 million in expenses going out to SLC for a water and sewer meter project, and there's no fund balances. We don't know what was originally approved by the board to spend and how much has been spent, and there's no way for us to really track if they're on budget for this large project, which was originally estimated at over $11 million. And when we look at the SAD item on here as well for Bloomfield Highlands, it also gets more critical, especially with the change to increase the SAD overpayment by 15%, which is contrary to what was originally submitted to the residents. So hopefully we'll get some better transparency going forward and provide us in payroll and voucher some additional information. It would be really helpful. Wanted to congratulate the fire department on the new appointments. That's fantastic. But we also need to look at the pension health benefit for public safety. There was a report done in August 28 of 2023, and although the public safety dollars were removed, they never allocated any portion of the $2.4 million in investment income to public safety. And that number comes from the township website, from the actuarial determined reports that are on the website. And it's disappointing that none of those investment funds were split, especially when it came from public safety tax revenue. Lastly, there are a couple items on the agenda regarding approvals for liquor licenses. You'll notice that several of the candidates that are on the board running for office have political signs on those corners. The original statements came out in April of this year. It's just disappointing that the lack of ethical nature that you would have those signs up and be voting for something to benefit those institutions. It's just disappointing. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come on up for general comment? No? Okay, we'll close the general public comment and we'll go to approving the board minutes of September 9th.
Can I make a motion first?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So one of my items was left off the agenda, and it relates directly to the item number 4, the special assessment roll. Should we move and take action to approve the special assessment roll? I submitted a resolution that allows us to reimburse the township with bond proceeds when we eventually do sell those bonds. So you'll notice in your packet, my resolution is actually in there at the end of the SAD section, which I'll give you the number, the page number. Here it is. I lost it. Anyway, I guess it's not really relevant to the motion. So my motion is that
On the page 4, he said.
Section 4.
In section 4, right. So my motion is that we amend the agenda to add item 4B, so make 4A and then add 4B, which would be consider a resolution to reimburse the township from bond proceeds.
Support.
So we have a motion by Treasurer Shostak, support by Clerk Brook. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
Thank you.
So now we'll go to approving the board, or do you need any other? Was there another one or just that one?
Just that one.
Okay. So we'll go with approving a board minutes of September 9th. Unless there's been any changes or edits, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Murray,
Support.
support by Trustee Kalinsky. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. So next, we're going to go to Fire Department new hires, awards, and promotions, and we'll have Chief LeRoy come on up.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight.
And Assistant Fire Chief Juris. Snuck in there.
No, just back there's fine. Thank you for having us tonight, recognizing our new hires that we currently have and the hard work that everybody does every day and taking out some of the special incidents that they've had over the last year. If I could have Battalion Chief Nate Keaton please come up. Wherever he may be. They're funneling in as we speak.
He might have been outside. He went to get it, but.
He's here, I promise. Here he comes.
Are you signing autographs, Nate?
Yes. J.K. Simmons has arrived. Oh, you're the center of attention, sir.
All right.
I'm extremely proud to announce that Battalion Chief Nate Keaton has successfully completed his probationary period and will be sworn in tonight as Battalion Chief. Battalion Chief Keaton has been with the department for over 23 years and served as a lieutenant for the past 7 years. Battalion Chief Keaton has been an integral part of the department since his hiring. He has served on the executive board for the union, been a state of Michigan fire instructor, working at OCC, and for the past 9 years has had complete oversight and development, purchasing, and manufacture of all Bloomfield Township Fire Department apparatus. Perhaps the most important, he brings a strong work ethic, great character, and impeccable integrity as a high-ranking leader of our department. His promotion and experience will ensure that the Bloomfield Township Fire Department will remain at the highest levels for years to come. Please join me in congratulating Nate Keaton to his promotion to Battalion Chief.
Okay. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Nate Keaton,
I, Nate Keaton,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I'll support the Constitution of the United States of America,
and I will support the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and I'll support the Constitution of the State of Michigan.
and I will faithfully discharge my duties
I'll faithfully discharge my duties
as Battalion Chief
as Battalion Chief
for the Charter Township of Bloomfield
for the Charter Township of Bloomfield
Fire Department
Fire Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If I could please have Nate's dad, Jeff, and his wife, Sarah, come to the front, please.
We have some paramedics here.
If I could have probationary firefighter Keegan Hoos, Tyler Harrison, Carson French, and Cade Dolowitz come to the front, please. They're in the right order. Probationary firefighter Keegan Hoos, badge number 183, is a recent graduate of Lake Superior State University. He is a basic EMT and is currently enrolled in paramedic certification course at Oakland Community College. Keegan comes to the Bloomfield Township Fire Department after serving as a paid on-call firefighter in Heartland Township, and pinning Keegan's badge on tonight will be his wife, Jessica. Jessica, would you please come up? Go ahead. Now's your chance. Congratulations, Keegan. Probationary firefighter Tyler Harrison, badge number 184, comes to us after proudly serving in the United States Air Force. After his service, he became a fire service technician for our fire department. Tyler is currently enrolled in a paramedic certification course at Macomb Community College, and tonight, pinning Tyler's badge on will be his wife, Gabrielle. Congratulations, Tyler. Probationary firefighter Carson French, badge number 185, started as a fire service technician with the Bloomfield Township Fire Department right out of high school. He quickly completed all of his required training and is actually just finishing his paramedic course at Genesis Hospital in Grand Blanc. Pinning Carson's badge tonight will be his father, Brandon. Probationary firefighter Cade Dalowitz, badge number 186, is a graduate of Central Michigan University. At Central, Cade was a wrestler on the wrestling team for 5 years. After Central, he decided to become a firefighter like his father, Brian, who is a retired West Bloomfield firefighter. Pinning Cade's badge tonight will be his father, Brian.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States of America. And I will support the Constitution of the State of Michigan. And I will support the Constitution of the State of Michigan. And I will faithfully discharge my duties. And I will faithfully discharge my duties. As firefighter basic EMT. As firefighter basic EMT. For the Charter Township of Bloomfield Fire Department. For the Charter Township of Bloomfield Fire Department. To the best of my ability. To the best of my ability. Now on to the awards portion of the night. And these truly are special circumstances that go above and beyond what everybody does on a daily basis. I mean, they do great things each and every day, but these really stood out over the past year or more of incidents that need to be recognized. If I could have retired Lieutenant Tim Cower, Scott Edgman, Ryan Switala, Joe Evangelista, and Madison Van Heck, please come to the front. On March 16th, 2023, Ladder 1 and Rescue 4 were dispatched to a residence for a 66-year-old resident unconscious. Crew members found the patient unconscious and pulseless with agonal breathing. CPR was started and the patient was defibrillated with no success. Advanced medications were given and the patient was defibrillated a second time, which resulted in the patient breathing and restoration of a pulse. The patient was transported to the hospital where they were discharged at a later date without any deficits. I would like to recognize these individuals with the EMS Life Saving Award.
Congratulations. Thank you. You'll be seeing Lieutenant Cower back up here shortly. If I could have Lieutenant Mike Pucci, firefighter Jeremy Koziel, firefighter Woodhull, and paramedic Luke Mackin come to the front, please. Yeah, over there. On June 13th, 2023, Ladder 1 and Rescue 3 were called to Lifetime Fitness for an unconscious patron. Upon arrival on the third floor of the building, the crew found a 57-year-old lying next to a treadmill with a personal trainer performing CPR and an AED attached that had already delivered one shock. Our paramedics began on the patient by attaching the Lucas mechanical CPR device. While the Lucas was being attached, the AEDs advised the crews to shock the patient. The defibrillation was delivered and the patient quickly regained consciousness. The patient was fully alert while being transported to the hospital, and the patient later made a full recovery. For their actions, I would like to recognize these individuals with the EMS Life Saving Award. Congratulations, thank you. Good job. If I could have Battalion Chief Nate Keaton, Lieutenant Kevin Schutte, Firefighter Jeff Bartlett, Firefighter Patrick Quinn, Firefighter Michael Best, and Firefighter Ryan Doomsa come to the front, please. Is that everybody? On June 19th, 2023, Ladder 4 and Rescue 4 responded to a worker who had fell at a home under construction. Arriving on the scene, crews discovered the critical patient had fallen over 20 feet from the roof and landed on the concrete foundation that had water present in it. Realizing the extreme challenge of the scene, Battalion Chief Keaton called for multiple additional units to assist with patient extrication from the basement. Crews were lowered into the basement and began treating the victim, while other units planned the patient's removal from the area. The patient was lifted and transported to the hospital and eventually airlifted to the University of Michigan Hospital for life-threatening injuries. The time of patient removal from the area was just over 10 minutes, and the total time on scene to the hospital was just 20 minutes. Both times are exceptional when dealing with a critical trauma patient. For their actions, these individuals are awarded the Distinguished Service Award. If I could have Lieutenant Sean Patterson, Firefighter Adam Phillips, Firefighter Adam Corbley, and Firefighter Brett Syracuse, please come up. On August 19th, Engine 3 and Rescue 3 responded to a home for an 88-year-old in cardiac arrest. Crews arrived on scene and began life-saving measures on a patient who had agonal respirations and no pulse. The crew began CPR, and after one round of CPR, the patient began reaching out for them. The patient was determined to be bradycardic, meaning a slow heart rhythm. Rescue 3 then determined the patient needed cardiac pacing to electrically increase the patient's heart rate via our cardiac monitor. The patient was paced during transport to the hospital and regained consciousness, even speaking to our crews while en route. The patient was released several days later without any deficits. For their actions, these individuals are awarded the EMS Life Saving Award. Nicely done. If I could have Lieutenant Rob Nichols, Firefighter Jason Clunan, Firefighter Kim Campbell, Firefighter Joe Evangelista, Firefighter Ryan Swatala, and Firefighter Ian Griffith, please come up.
On October 1st, 2023, Station 2 units received a report of a missing dementia patient at around 1 a.m. Family advised the patient would often escape and go lay down or hide under bushes or trees. The Station 2 crew began walking the area in the dark with their thermal imaging camera, while the Rescue 4 crew flew the drone with thermal imaging capabilities overhead, eventually finding the patient sleeping under some bushes. It took approximately 30 minutes from arrival on scene to locate the patient, who was cold and soaking wet, suffering from the initial effects of hypothermia. This patient may not have made it overnight in the cold, wet conditions had they not been found in such an efficient manner. For their actions, this crew is awarded the Distinguished Service Award. If I could have Lieutenant Sean Patterson, Firefighter Patrick Quinn, and Firefighter Andrew Van Heck. On October 5th, 2023, Engine 3 and Rescue 3 responded to the Birmingham Athletic Club for reports of a cardiac arrest. Bystanders had already begun CPR. BTFD crews began advanced life support procedures, shocking the patient and giving advanced cardiac medicine, and establishing an airway for the patient. Shortly after the first defibrillation, the patient began breathing while also regaining pulses. This patient was released from the hospital several days later without any deficits. For their actions, this crew is awarded the EMS Life Saving Award. And the last award that I have has quite a few people involved in it on a type of incident that you don't normally see in an everyday occurrence. So if I could please have retired Lieutenant Tim Cower, Lieutenant Ed Leitz, Lieutenant Ben Bradford, Firefighter Scott Collins, Firefighter Corey Van Heck, Firefighter Jacob Pache, Firefighter Alec Ree, Firefighter Travis Smith, Firefighter Madison Van Heck, Firefighter Joe Evangelista, and Firefighter Cody Landry. Please come to the front. On the evening of December 22nd, 2023, Bloomfield Township Stations 1, 3, and 4 were dispatched to a motor vehicle accident. A vehicle had struck a horse and a carriage at a high rate of speed, resulting in multiple severely injured patients. Rescue 3 arrived on scene and immediately began to triage all of the victims from the carriage. The victims had been thrown a significant distance from the carriage. Some patients were even being helped by bystanders almost a block away. Several advanced life support units had to be called to the scene of this mass casualty incident, and in all, a total of 8 victims were treated and transported, with some of them being life-threatening injuries. For their actions on this evening, all of the crews are awarded the Distinguished Service Award. Thank you, everybody. And I would just like to add that these are just but a few of the awards that make it up through the ranks, and they actually take credit or somebody recognizes them. The work that these people do on a daily basis truly is, every day it should be recognized. And these awards are just, but like I said, but a few of the really important ones that happen.
And the last award that I have is the Mike Cummings Ironman Trophy. It's awarded to the fire department member who responds to the most incidents in a calendar year. It's for retired battalion chief / captain Mike Cummings used to yell out Iron Man, and that's how the award got its name. The first year of this award, the Iron Man Trophy, was in 2013, and the winner then responded to 500 incidents, compared to the 616 that this person responded to last year. The winner of the 2023 Ironman Award, with 616 incidents responded to, is firefighter paramedic Andrew Fleming.
Don't go anywhere. So normally, I don't respond to public comment, but when it demeans our police officers or our firefighters, I have to stand up and say that's not okay. Your sacrifices from 2008 through 2019, while your services were cut drastically, it's amazing how well you performed, even when we had to have equipment that wasn't in service because your staffing levels were so low. I want to thank Chief LeRoy and Chief DeRoos being advocates, and thank the board that systematically each year we have a board, and as your operations officer being brought back, different levels being brought back, you are now at levels that are higher than pre-recession, and it's because of all of you staying, but also for your advocacy and for this board. So again, I'm used to getting attacked. I don't mind it. It's at least they're thinking of me, but it's not okay to insinuate that we are understaffed right now when you all stayed during the worst time when you were understaffed, both during the recession and during the budget crisis of 2019 that we all inherited. So I want to thank you for everything you have always done, whether it was when my father needed you 23 years ago or others. But you are all true heroes, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would just like to say thank you to the board for having us this evening, and that is all that I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right. So next we have public hearing. So do we want to do the presentation and then the public hearing? Or so what we'll do now is we're going to have the the special assessment role. Yeah, we're gonna, I'm just announcing, we won't actually start the presentation until we kind of filter out, just so it's quieter, but just to let you know how it's going to go. First, we'll do the presentation by Jen Werthman, and then after you hear that, we're gonna open up the public comment so that anybody who would like to comment on the public hearing of the special assessment role of South Bloomfield Highlands will then be heard. So we'll just give it a second while people file out. So we'll start now with the presentation from Deputy Assessor Jennifer Werthman.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Tonight we're here to discuss the public hearing of the assessment role for our special assessment district number 601. That's going to be the South Bloomfield Highlands, our proposed water main project that we have in this. I have no mouse. I have no nothing. Sean, can you advance that? It's not working. Thank you. So I'll do a little recap of the project. I know we've been here a few times, but we'll just kind of run through what the project consists of first. We are looking at a new 8-inch water main system that will replace an existing private well system, as well as fire hydrants and gate valves throughout the entire South Bloomfield Highlands subdivision. There will be a 1-inch tap off of the new 8-inch line that will extend to the stop box at the property line of each lot. We're going to have 5 connections to the existing township water system. 3 of them are resident funded and 2 of them are township funded. So we have Barrington Road just east of Woodward, Rutherford Road, Mulberry Road, and then the 2 township funded hookups are going to be Hillsdale Road and Winthrop and Mulberry Square and
Give
Rutherford.
us another quick second. No one wants to miss what you have to say.
It's very important. I know. I understand.
think they're letting the Highlands people
Oh, this
in
is
now.
round 2.
So yeah, there's a little gamut outside.
They're out there.
They did come to see you.
That's right.
So they had to let the firefighters out to let the others in.
Wow.
That makes sense.
There you go.
Okay.
Why it's taking so long?
I feel worthy. We're good.
Holy cow. We might have exceeded the room's capacity.
We ready?
There was a traffic jam out there.
I see that. Okay. The project also consists of the cost for abandonment of the existing water source, treatment and distribution system. This includes the abandonment of the wells as well as the water main hydrants and gate wells. Bloomfield Township received bids on August 20th. There were a total of 8 bids received. Palmer Enterprise Inc. was selected due to being the lowest bidder, as well as the fact that they have previously performed water main related projects for the township, along with many neighboring communities. The Board of Trustees approved this bid award at the August 26th board meeting, which was presented by Corey Almus, our EESD director. Since receiving bids, we have also held an informational meeting with the South Bloomfield Highland residents to ensure that they had all information necessary to understand this project and were able to ask questions of all departments involved. This is just a map of our district again, showing what's included and what's excluded in that district. The petition has been confirmed by the Township Assessor. It was supported by 52.51% of the homeowners, which represented 55.74% of the total acreage in the district. Estimated project cost is $5,164,609.68. Parcels in the proposed SAD are 220. There are 216 that are actually assessed due to 4 combinations. Tentative assessment per unit of benefit will be $23,910.23 per parcel. Assessments can be financed over 20 years. Interest will be determined after bonds are sold. It will be 1% above the bond rate. So I just wanted to kind of bring to light for the board, we did cover this with the residents last week in the meeting that we held for them, but we did want to highlight some of the township's contributions to this project, given the dire need and necessity of the project. The township covered a detailed project cost estimate and topographical survey at the cost of $56,700. Construction costs for additional connections to the township's water system were those 2 connections that I mentioned, $74,852. The township is covering the meter cost for 216 properties, which comes to $88,560. The township is also covering the permit application for the plumbing permits of all 216 properties, which comes to $29,592. They covered an invoice from Dukes for lateral lead locating at $10,811.65. We also have included 80 hours for 2 staff, each dedicated to locating the water service lines in the field that D'Angelo was not able to locate. The township funded roughly half of the service lines, found roughly half of the service lines. We have 2 staff with 20 hours each to locate storm structures and other infrastructure that was needed to design the engineering plan. So in total, we've paid out township employees for 200 hours of field labor, and we'll anticipate spending a total of $260,515 out of the water and sewer fund to cover those above bulleted items. The other thing that we did shed some light on for the residents was some options out there for payment assistance. One of the things that was put on their plate as far as having to cover out of pocket was the cost of the plumbing to run from the stop box to their house. And it, depending on the current service that they have and where those lines needed to be run, it can get costly for them. So we were able to find a couple resources. One of them is through Oakland County. They offer a home improvement program. Qualified homeowners may receive interest-free loans up to $23,000 that don't need to be paid upfront. They are paid either when the property transfers, when the people move out of the home. It's a pretty good program, and it has a pretty fair income limit as well, so that was a good option. And then the other option that we have is through the township itself. The senior center facilitates a minor home repair program that funds through the community development block grant. The program is designed to help low to moderate income households complete more complicated home maintenance. So to qualify, they have to be 60 years or older and a resident of the township. They do have income guidelines as well as home value guidelines. And then there's an application process. So we did offer up most of this information at that last meeting last week as well, and we are more than willing to help anybody who requires that assistance. As I kind of mentioned before, after the last board meeting in August, we have held another meeting with the residents to answer any and all concerns. We feel that we've really had a good back and forth communication with the residents, that we've really gotten on a good page with them. I think we have a good understanding of where we're at, full transparency, and we really feel confident that this project is ready to move forward. So tonight our requested actions are that we have our public hearing number 2, that we approve resolution number 3, and that we authorize HRC to proceed with this program. Public comment.
That's it? All right. So now we're going to go ahead and open up public comment. So you can come on up to the podium, just give us your name and address, and then you can feel free to line up too.
Hi, I'm Jim Tasson. I live at 268 Marlboro. In the last meeting, many of us were opposed to paying for the cost of the water extension project in the SBHIA, not the project itself. At that time, we thought it was $8.4 million. We were made aware of the lower bid the township presented to us after the public comment, not to us, but to the board, trustees. We were happy to see the price drop by $3 million. As you know, we want the project to continue for the sake of our safety. I personally feel the township can still do more financially for our community. The township is not strapped for funds. I am not suggesting to cover the entire cost of the project. $1 or $2 million would be in good faith amount. Yes, you would be setting a precedent, a goodwill precedent. Every time I look at the SAD 601, I see increases. Does this administration want to be known as one that helped or not helped the citizens of Bloomfield Township? Thank you.
I'm Joe Trout at 2221 Lancaster, and I vote yes to proceed. And I'd just like to say, for some of the folks that are still on the fence, I grew up in Novi and we went through this as well. And our SAD back then in 1979 was 15,000. So looking where we're at right now, I recognize that for some, all of us, nobody really wanted to voluntarily pay for this, of course, but I do remember the water was so much better. We threw out all our glassware and all the clothes that we couldn't keep white, and we finally got to be white clothes. Jim just talked about the safety as well, which a lot of us will recognize for the hydrant pressure, etc. But I was just going to say, even talking to folks like my mom, and other real estate folks over the years, for the folks that are still on the fence, not to worry. The overtime, the special assessment overtime just isn't that bad once you get it in the budget. We'll be a lot better off for sure. And a lot of people who were thinking about coming to our great neighborhood have never even seen a well or a well pump or a pump house and don't know anything about humping 40-pound bags of salt around. I can do it, but a lot of people here can't. And I've helped my neighbors of different ages by doing that. And we won't have to worry about that stuff any longer. So that's just, I wanted to say a positive thing for just, we've been kicking the can down the road I moved here in '98 for all these years, and everyone said the same thing. It's like, oh, it's expensive. Yes, it is. I mean, we have a lot to do, but it will be worth it. And when people want to come to the neighborhood, they won't look at the situation and say, oh my God, I don't want to deal with well water or pump houses or DEQ or lead levels or, even no matter what the levels are. They just want the clean water and never have to think about it. So, like I said, that's my positive 2 cents worth, and put 5 yeses down for me. Thank you.
Teresa Renaud, 2139 Devonshire. Last week, our subdivision had a meeting with the supervisor and other township officials. We were told at that meeting to come tonight and support this project, or the Board of Trustees would nix the project and we'd have to start over. Please don't nix the project. Many homeowners in South Bloomfield Highlands still believe that the township can contribute more to this project, especially as it is a township asset if they chose to. We were informed the township attorney said it wasn't advisable but was possible. This SAD is not a typical non-essential SAD like a road SAD that will remain a county asset. We are paying for a new infrastructure, a township asset, that should have no issues for many years to come, as we additionally pay into the water sewer funds. Also, at the last trustee meeting, you all passed a resolution to raise the township admin and management fees on special assessments from 1%, from 0.5% to 1.5%, and the legal fees to a flat fee of $200,000. These costs were reflected in the project cost breakdown before the board approved them. It doesn't feel right. I feel it is unfair to apply the new policy to our project, which increases our cost by approximately $80,000. We should be grandfathered into the original policy in effect when we received the original estimate, when the special assessment district was created and the petitions were signed. As we are here tonight for the scheduled final vote, we all want the project to start, hopefully on schedule next month. My neighbors and myself believe that the replacement of our infrastructure to connect to the township's water distribution system is of vital importance for both water quality and fire suppression, and it needs to go forward. Our backs are against the wall. Although I disagree with some of the cost factors and pray you will reconsider the increase in township and legal costs per the new SAD policy, please vote yes to accept the SAD.
Greetings, I'm Lisa Scott at 151 Marlboro. I'm in supportive of the system, but you gave us a background last time of all the different SADs, and I know a lot of them had to do with the road system also. But you don't have to follow the same rules, because on some of this you're adding fees, or like the administrative fee, and then we will be taxed on things, and then we're going to now have the water bill, and we're going to have a sewer bill. So I really think that we need to work on maybe a compromise and keep this open so we can still negotiate some of the costs down. We are a very mixed community. We have people on fixed incomes, and a lot of people are panicking and putting their homes up for sale. I don't think that should be an option. I think we should do everything as a supportive community to try and keep everybody in their homes, and we should work on the best solution that can keep everybody, that can benefit you and also benefit us, because you will be getting this asset when it's turned out, in the end. And we are the ones taking the burden of the cost. So, and some of the people, they may not be able, they might qualify for some of the financial aid. So this is just a thought. Maybe there should be a workshop, because a lot of the people we've got don't use computers, and maybe that might be a good thing, for us to all bond and maybe move forward on this. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Kelly Forster, 2467 Devonshire. We all agree we got to do something about this water. My problem all along has been a financial situation, as it is with a lot of my neighbors. Most of us don't have the $25,000 to cover our selves right away on that. Additionally, we have our own out-of-pocket costs for whatever our personal plumbing hookup costs are going to be, and we don't know the cost of that yet. It's very hard to plan financially when you don't know the cost of things. We finally got a number last week, appreciated that meeting, but when you factor in the interest rate, which we also don't know, we could end up paying over $60,000 for this project. if it's financed over 20 years, depending on the interest rate. I don't know how you're supposed to vote for something or sign on the dotted line for something where you don't know what you're paying for, how much you're paying for it. If I was going to put a roof on my house, I would plan ahead, couple years, set some money aside, be prepared. I'd want to know if I had to do some financing, what my interest rates were going to be, and for how long. I wouldn't just sign away something or say yes to something when I don't know what the final cost is going to be for me. And I think it's unfair to kind of put us in the position where we're expected to do just that. How do we know how long till you find out what the finance rate is going to be? If you say when the bonds are sold, I don't know how long does that take? What does that entail? And then what is the rate going to be? And why is there the extra 1%? I don't understand that either. Maybe I missed that in the meetings. A lot of information, and a lot of this information is just now really coming out to us in the last month and a half to 2 months, which didn't give people time to prepare their finances. This is a hardship. It's a hardship for a lot of people in this neighborhood, and we really need some more help from the township. And I know you said township covered the cost of this, township covered the cost of the meters, of the permits. Actually, I believe that comes out of our tax dollars. That doesn't come out of our tax dollars.
Not at all.
The township covers the cost. Where does the money come from?
This is a water utility. It's not part of taxes.
No, but okay. So
it's all the money that you pay in as water users funds it. No taxes ever, yeah.
I just wondered where the money came from for the meters and for the permits.
From those who pay into the water system.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve Presby, 2230 Lancaster. I grew up on a well, so as a first-time home buyer in 1977, it didn't matter much to me that the sub was on wells. It was good enough. And I think at that time and maybe into the early 90s, the system was good enough. Dues were kept low, sampling and record keeping relatively minimal. But we were ignoring the larger hidden concerns and eventual costs. In the early 90s, after some bacteriologic anomalies, the subdivision did go on a temporary and then a permanent chlorination. In 96, HRC worked up a couple options for us. At that time, it was 1.3 million, roughly. In 2002, it went to 1.7 million. And I think many of us recognize that the costs will never go down. They will keep increasing. And I can add a side note that after I've spent about 45 years in public health and saw the increases in the lead copper rules and the water requirements, record keeping, those aren't going away. You know, so the subdivision was taking care of it themselves, but it was like a very small, minimal operation in the beginning. And I think many of us, so mark me down as wanting the city water, that we recognize it's like gotten too large for us to handle. The fire a couple summers ago was another tipping point for this subdivision. And my wife and I were leaving the subdivision at the exact time that the 5 fire trucks and EMS vehicles were screaming into the subdivision from 2 entrances in an attempt to put out the fire. And, you know, until it happens that way, it didn't, I don't think it was on, you know, top of mind. So it brings us to the current status that connecting to the water means betterment for the subdivision and the community. The majority of property owners, you know, went forward with wanting to sign the intent and the SAD, and so I urge you to vote for this project. Thank you.
Christopher Everly, 1948 Devonshire Road.
I urge you to vote for the project also. I appreciate the board's work and all the department heads and the subdivision board and everybody in the neighborhood, you know, contributing to debate this and give their opinions and brainstorm to help make the best we can out of this. I too, like the gentleman in front of me, love the well water. I came from Waterford, we had wells there. But once the fire hydrant issue became known to me, you know, 12 to 15 years ago, that's when I was like, we need to do something about this because my parents' house burnt down 30 years ago. A fire truck was blocked by a train, so it was burnt down to the ground. So I've experienced this. And so to me, we have no choice. It's the end of the life for our system. We need fire protection. And I think we've done what we could to move this forward. And if we could get any financial help further, that'd definitely be a plus. But I urge you guys to vote yes.
Sikandar Rashid, 2198 Somerset. I also would like to vote yes. I support the SAD to connect to city water.
Hi there, Carol Graves, 2251 Lancaster. I support moving forward. I'd also like to add, I hope you continue to help us. We need help with the plumbers. Do you want 200 plus homes all finding our own plumbers? We need more support from you guys. I appreciate what you're doing for us. Let's move forward, and I hope you stick with us. Thank you.
Hi, Deb Nash at 238 Marlborough. I'm here to show support for going forward with the water replacement, and like the previous woman, I would like to see some more help from the board. I think it will be a nightmare trying to orchestrate plumbers for 200 plus homes. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a break if we all pull together and have one or two plumbers that do this up. Thanks a lot.
Frank Nash, 238 Marlborough Drive. I fully support this new project going on. I don't want to see my property value crumble when our wells crumble. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kit Reese, 237 Marlborough, across the street. And we are also in agreement. I think the majority of us all understand the absolute necessity for this to move forward. We would love some help. When I bought my house, and you've heard this, but I haven't moved in yet 4 months later because they didn't disclose and it's not habitable. But I went to the township because I didn't know anything about this. And God bless Jennifer Werthman, who explained it and gave me a deck and told me everything. Oh, 40 grand, okay, yeah, and some connection fees, no worries, you know, no problem. But it wasn't disclosed, and so that's crazy. And then I found out that my house happened to be the office when my neighbor's house was the model home back in the 50s. And so guess what? They needed water, so they just slapped a line from me over to him. So now my line has to come new from the house, and it's going to be substantially more. I guess that's the only way to say it. So it's just, there are a bunch. I mean, mine could be 8 or 10 grand. I mean, it really, and that's from your people and from talking to knowledgeable people. So there really are some costs. So anything that you guys can do, but we also understand all that you've put into it and all the concessions that you've made and the work that you've done to make it, you know, permits and everything that's happened, and we do appreciate it. So I vote to approve it with enthusiasm and hopefully some help. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Deb Dyack at 215 Barrington Road. I want to thank the board for all of your patience, hard work, and your transparency. I know you worked so hard putting together a really good presentation for us, which helped me understand the costs a little bit more. And I love the well when it's working, but we don't really have a working well anymore. Most of us don't drink the water, and if you have children, you don't drink the water. You have bottled water. You can't use the refrigerator, automatic ice cube makers, because the water's awful. And the most important thing is we don't have an infrastructure, which everyone said. So the water's horrible, and we do need to move forward, and I thank you very much, and I hope you vote yes. Thank you.
I'm Paul Ryder, 2240 Lancaster, and I approve to move forward with this as a maintenance engineer. It's just end of life for the system. There's nothing we can do about it.
I'm Daniel Oliva. My wife and I moved into our house at 2200 Lancaster Road during the pandemic. We put a lot of work into our house renovating it, and we're really proud of it. When the first petition went out at $40,000, we were really concerned about the price. Turns out it's more expensive to jump into a new mortgage in the current market. So we really love our house. We're going to hang on to it, and we are in favor of moving forward with the assessment.
Hi, my name is Maria Canellas. I also live at 2200 Lancaster. I'm Daniel's wife, and I just wanted to express that I vote in favor of moving forward with the project.
Hi, I'm Melissa Anderson, 2092 Devonshire, and I also agree to go forward with this project. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Morgan Cecilio at 45 Hillsdale. Do vote to move forward with the project, and just extremely grateful for all the work that's been put in so far. Very, very thankful for all the consideration the township has given, the board, the HOA, department heads, everybody. It's very much appreciated, so thank you guys.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Welch. I live at 2312 Bedford. I'm in support of the SAD, and I want to thank you guys for your patience with us through this whole process. Let's get city water in our neighborhood.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Welch, and I'm at 2312 Bedford Road. I also support the moving forward with this project, and again would like to express my thanks to our our neighborhood association board for all of the countless hours that they've put into this. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Karen Perry at 26 Marlboro Drive. I'd like to say, thank you for all the work that you've done, and thank the HOA members for all the work they've done, and I vote that we go proceed with this project.
My name is Kelly Staffen, 2170 Lancaster, and I support this with moving ahead, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your patience and your help and your feelings for us, and I want to thank the board, our subdivision, for all they've done too. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patricia Taratuta. I'm at 38 Barrington. I have brought my emotional support human today. I want to, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the township for meeting with us last week. I think that was something that was just super important, and we got a lot of great feedback. So I specifically want to thank, and I apologize if I miss somebody's name, Karen from HRC, Karen Stickler, we talked before it, I'm so sorry. Danny Walsh, Jen Werthman, Dirk Beckerleg, Noah Mahalski, Corey Almas, Paul Horan, and Adam Roos for all showing up. And I, again, apologize if I miss somebody's name. But yeah, obviously this is something that's been close to my heart since we got started, and just want to move forward. And yeah, so please vote yes. And Kaya, did you want to say something? Say who you are.
My name is Kaya, and I live at 38 Barrington, and I want to hook up to city water, so we actually have water to drink instead of having to just buy bottled water and more bottled water, because the recycled bottles actually have plastic in them.
They do.
Craig Long. We live at 2273 Somerset. I do appreciate everyone's time and effort spent on this project. I do feel the sub is at a crossroads that we need to move forward, and hope you vote yes, and agree with everyone else. Looking forward to no longer buying all the bottled water. So, thank you.
Hi, Mitch Loney, 2160 Lancaster. Also in support of moving forward with this, and thank the township for all your help and our board too for working tirelessly on this. Echo everything everybody said. I have 2 kids, young kids at home, so just to be able to have clean bath water for them and drinking water will be a great thing. So thank you all.
Hi, I'm Abdullah Obeid at 67 Marlborough Drive. I also want to thank you guys for all the help and the work that you're doing for us. And I want to also voice my support. And I hope you guys vote yes for this work, because we really need that clean water. We're tired of carrying around those bottles. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Kaiser, 1979 Devonshire. I'm in favor of moving forward, and I would also like to express my gratitude for everybody involved with getting us to this point. Thank you.
Caitlin Valenti, 1933 Devonshire. I vote yes in support of this project. Our water's in a bad state. We need the township to help us move forward. I am another family in the neighborhood with a young child, and so the water is especially important to us. So I thank the township, and like I said, we need to block out the noise. We need to move forward with this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Barclift. I live at 2138 Somerset Road, and I am in support of replacing the water system. And thank you for your support.
Mike Slaniker, 309 Marlborough. My wife and I, Gail, have been here 18 years. We want this done. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Rhonda Daly. I'm at 415 Marlborough. This is the house that got burned. So I just want to say it's a public safety issue as well as a public health issue without water. So I'm happy we're moving forward. Please vote yes. We don't need any more of this, right? Thank you.
My name is Glenn Wilcox, 351 Marlborough Drive. My wife and I like to take long walks, through the woods and all that, and come back and have some fresh water. So I vote yes.
My name is Sinbhavanam. I live at 176 Barrington Road, and really appreciate the township officials and the people who are working in the project as well as the association for bringing it up. I was surprised that such a sophisticated neighborhood like Bloomfield Hills didn't have a regular water supply but a well water when I moved in. So really thank you very much for initiating it and making it happen. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Reginald Robinson. I live at 107 Marlborough Drive. It's a corner lot, Hillsdale and Marlborough. So I get to see a lot of my neighbors passing by because I'm out there in the yard working. But anyway, my wife and I are in favor of this project. My house was built in 1982, and they told us we were on well water, so I guess we had to try to survive with that. But I'm happy to know that we're going to get some clear water now. Thank you for your hard work.
Hi, my name is Annette Gregory. I'm at 50 Barrington. I did send an email because I wasn't sure if I would make it here tonight. But Danny, you had said it's better to show up, so here I am. I do want the water. I am worried about, in particular, the fires. If You know, if we have to close down Square Lake and connect hoses, and I mean, we're risking the fire spreading to multiple homes and risking fatalities. It's like, and if we keep putting it off, it reminds me of the Surfside condos in Florida. You know, they were told in 2018 that there's severe structural damage, and they either didn't have the money or didn't want to spend the money, and they did nothing. And in 2021, it collapsed, killing 98 people. And, you know, you think, oh no, you know, it's not going to happen to us. You know, there's not going to be a fire that spreads, you know, but it could. I mean, we actually increased the likelihood dramatically by not having fire hydrants. And the other issue is the arsenic and lead. You know, it's already at a high level. I'm concerned. The little girl she's my granddaughter. She lives next door. I also have a grandson and another grandson that lives with me. And yeah, I'm really worried about the effect of the lead and the arsenic. And, you know, it is kind of a township issue as well, because you're educating them, and arsenic and lead does affect, you know, that can cause learning disabilities. And, you know, so it's like, you know, Florida, when the building collapse happened, they passed legislation to where they were doing inspections every 40 years on buildings that were 3 stories or higher. Now they're doing it every 10 years because of what happened. You know, I think, you know, we need to act now, because kicking it down the road any further, we're just asking for trouble. So vote yes, and thank you very much for all of your help. That meeting last week was really good, and I appreciate what you guys have done. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Rick Renicky. I live at 2184 Somerset. We moved to our home in '86. So we've gone through all the different trials and tribulations of converting to township water. There's no question about it. We have to convert because of the water system or the fire hydrants and all that other stuff. But like I said, when we first started talking about this back in, '87, I'm on Social Security disability. My wife is retired on Social Security. This is going to send us out of our home. There's no two ways about it. We can't afford this. And you're going to drive a lot of these senior citizens out of their homes because they can't afford it. So we need your help.
I'm Rick Sitherhalf, 2184 Somerset, Yvonne Renicky. And through this whole course of events, I have had ambivalent feelings about this being done. But the final analysis, I would have to say that the health and the safety factor supersede the other things. So I am in favor of it.
Hi, I'm Christina McAtee Papanini. My family and I live at 2035 Devonshire. I mean, everybody's voices have been, you get the point. The ball's been dropped for decades. Someone didn't monitor what they were supposed to, the ball's been dropped, and now we have no choice but to force our hand in moving forward. So we would appreciate your support in voting yes to move forward.
I'm Marie Dozers. I live at 2278 Somerset Road. I've gone through 3 water softeners, and I'm tired of all the supplies I need and the maintenance of it, and I am ready for city water, so I vote yes.
Hi, my name is Debbie Morgan. I live at 2275 Devonshire Road with my husband and my son. My house was built in 1960, and I've lived there since 1960, off and on with college and some other things, and loved this neighborhood. The water was pristine. When we were on well water, when we first moved in, you couldn't get better water. But over time, that has deteriorated. And I don't know if it's my lot or what it is, but I get a lot of rust in the water. We just can't even drink it or look at it because it's horrible. So we have everything on the water softener, and Instacart loves me because I get water upon water upon water to bring into the house. And it's tiring knowing that it's not a good condition for our family or any other family in the neighborhood. We need to move on. We need to move forward. We need a treasurer that wants to smile. Good. Because it's fun spending money.
I just collect the money. They spend it.
Oh, tell them how good it is when you collect it. And so anyway, I really, really emphasize that there's not one household in our neighborhood that has good water. When we used to have the best, we now have the worst. And to replace the well system would probably be just as much money, and plus it would take a lot of effort from people in the neighborhood, and people are busy. They don't want that responsibility anymore. So I really urge you to vote yes. I don't know why it is even an issue of whether or not to vote yes, because we were all here last time telling we're not, for SAD because it's expensive and please help. But no one in that crowd said they don't want to move on. So I thank you. Again, my name is Debbie Morgan. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Luda Malinsky. I live on 316 Marlborough Drive. I vote yes on the project. Let's proceed as soon as possible. We need to connect township water. Thank you so much for your help.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Jasper. I live at 265 Marlborough. I want to say that I'm for this, so just let you know that Norm was over at my house just Sunday. I had 20 pounds of pressure. So that means you couldn't flush the toilet and take a shower at the same time, nor could you wash clothes. This has been an ongoing problem for a year or so. I'm in the center of the subdivision. Unfortunately, that means that both pumps don't work necessarily at one time. Now, that said, there should be more funding for this through the state of Michigan, because it does have the Regional Convention Facility Authority that it's been buying up properties. Bloomfield Park, for example, we gave away tax dollars when we gave away the property on Telegraph where Menards is. That taxes since then would have paid for this infrastructure. Most subdivisions have both the well system and the city system, and you're allowed to hook up. But somehow, when this all got started, somebody decided to put inside the terms that they're going to put cement in the plumbing of the old wells. Now, I don't know how many of you know how much it costs for city water, but I've been up to Executive Nash, and I talked to him about the water costs, and he's increased that water cost 4% compounded for the last 8 years, still for another 2 years. So we're talking $2,000 to $3,000 a year for water. I wasn't even aware about the meters for the sewer, and I've been paying the full price, over $500 every quarter. Now, that said, we need to move forward because the water pressure needs to be replaced, but we shouldn't be destroying the wells or the well water for watering the lawns. That's what most of your subdivisions do. And the Bloomfield Township is well aware of this kind of water condition and issues with sewers since 2008. And anybody who sat on the board knows that. Anybody who was part of this understands this. This was a water condition that's existed throughout the city or township for a few years now. Plus the 1% that we're charging additional for the fee shouldn't be charged. That's a fee for doing transaction with securities. We should reduce that or take it off or somehow make it come back to the people, because there are a lot of people here who can't afford the increased cost it's going to afford them. That has to be taken into consideration with this vote. These things should all be looked at. You shouldn't be destroying the system. You should be helping the people and working with them. We definitely need to come on to the township, but that water is through the Blue Water Authority, which is run by the state of Michigan, which is run by the counties, Oakland, Macomb, and Washtenaw. And they took over the two water systems. Anyways, that said, I want you to consider this when you're doing the vote and make a change to those rules so that we actually help the people themselves that can't afford the additional cost. But we should move forward on it at least, but not destroy the wells. Thank you very much.
Mike McKernan, I'm at 126 Barrington. I'm going to be your favorite speaker because I'm the last speaker. So I just want to say that, I grew up in the rural Ferndale area. We discovered Bloomfield Township and used to live in the same sub as Martin. And our kids went to school together. We're in Scouts together. And I absolutely love Bloomfield Township. I've lived in 3 houses. I've owned 3 houses in Bloomfield. When I moved into this subdivision, I was downsizing after my son graduated from high school, and it was more a size appropriate house. Didn't even think about the water, and I'm a real estate appraiser. It didn't even faze me that, okay, we've got water. I've been on the board. I've been the person responsible for the water supply and the maintenance and the checking on it, and it's a very derelict system. I did approach, when I was on the board, the township back in 2003 and 4 and 5 to kind of see if we could come up with some sort of a partnership to increase the water, or come up with a joint solution. At that time, the president of the board had kind of an adversarial stance with the fire department and the township, and he's not on the board anymore, but I saw the benefit of public water back then because I experienced it at 2 other homes where we didn't even give it a thought. You make coffee, boiled spaghetti, whatever. You didn't think about the water. But when I approached the township, I thought, well, this would be a shared benefit because it is an asset the township would own. The assessed values of the houses would be higher because this is the least assessed house I've had of the 3. So I'm assuming it's because it doesn't have, a lot of the service or the water supply. I assumed you'd have 220 dedicated customers now that you're collecting revenue for the water supply. And so there seemed like there'd be a benefit, but even at that time, they're like, this is entirely you. You would have to cover all the costs of this. So I think everybody would want to see the water supply improved and the infrastructure program go forward. If there could be some participation by the township for an asset that they will ultimately own and be able to tax and collect revenue from, that would seem fair. So.
So last chance. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, we're going to close public comment. And before we bring it back to the board, I want to say thank you to everybody who showed up last week. That was a stellar group that was there, but also thank you to Chris, who did a whole lot of calls to plumbers, over 40 that he called to try and help with the group. Thank you to Norm, thank you to Patricia, thank you to Jim, thank you to Teresa, everybody from the board that was there and hosted that for us. And thank you to Jen, Corey, Noah, Paul, Adam, and Dirk, and Karen, who were at that meeting. So I just want to say thank you. That was a couple very good hours, I felt, that you got to get all your questions out, and that's why those matter. So thank you. But again, Chris, you're a rock star. I expected you called maybe 1 or 2. He called over 40 to get you all a list and work together. So that was pretty awesome. So thank you. Does anyone have questions for Jen?
So Jen, there are 216 units of benefit, but there are 220 parcels. So the parcels that are being combined, are there any way for them to be split later on with, I know there's deed restrictions that are being put on them. Are they able to be split so that if they are, they could be reducing the cost for all the other neighbors?
So we may defer to Mark potentially for that. I think that the only way that would happen is if they were split apart, they would have to have an agreement to buy back into the system. But I'm not sure if there's any sort of we deed restrict them when they put the split or the combination in.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with the specifics on this one, but typically when there's a deed restriction like that, the restrictions in place in view of the fact that it's going to be one building site and one use, and so the restrictions placed on there to keep it from being developed as 2. And I suppose if there's going to be an exception to that, that would be something that would be determined on the split approval on how to handle that.
So the reason I bring this up specifically is, to my understanding, there are 4 lots that the HOA owns that the well houses are on. And to save money, they are combining those 4 lots into 2. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The reason I bring this up is if they would have kept it as 4 lots, it would create more units of benefit, which would then reduce the assessments to all the individual homes. So it would make it cheaper for all the individual homeowners to save money. And then it would create the opportunity for the HOA to sell 4 parcels versus 2 to recoup additional money. Then the HOA, or however you guys want to do it, would then be able to invest that money. That is the reason I'm bringing this up. And I know we as a board had talked about it, but it was at that time when it was already being, public notices were out. But I want to see if there's any chance that we can make either changes to deed restrictions or have the ability that if a developer or a builder or the HOA does decide to sell these parcels, that they would then be able to have a way to reduce additional costs to the homeowners.
Well, the HOA I know had the intention of if they sell them, they're distributing it through everybody there.
Correct. So if I
That's
sell,
what we were told at that meeting last week.
but if I sell 4 parcels versus 2 parcels, a builder is going to be able to make more units, which means they're going to be able to pay you more.
With that background, if I could just interject, so these are HOA-owned properties.
Correct, that have units of benefit.
Okay. But what I'm saying is they're HOA properties, they're going to be recouping money if they're transferred in the future, which will go to the HOA.
Correct.
So the HOA would then, rather than reducing the assessments, the HOA would be splitting up that money over the, for the benefit of the homeowners in the area. So they'd be indirectly reimbursed for that.
Yes.
Are they even buildable?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're right. Well, if the HOA chooses to separate that money, that's not anything to do with the board.
Exactly.
What I'm trying to get at is if I have 218 units of benefit over $5.5 million versus 216, it reduces the cost for everybody. And then upon selling it, 4 units usually sells more than 2 units.
It does increase their immediate costs of, they now have 4 benefits to pay
on
while they still run a water infrastructure while they're still paying others. So I believe that was their choice.
Correct.
As a group to, like, not just 5 people, but as a group, they all decided best for them was to split them, and then once they sell them, give that money to the group. That was a decision that their whole group made.
Correct. That's not a board decision. I just wanted to provide more context and more information, like we talk about, is if there are ways for you to do that, it is a way for you guys to reduce additional costs for you without changing anything associated with what the board does. This provides you more opportunities to more do it.
It wouldn't be reducing costs, it'd be reimbursing costs.
Yeah.
But you reduce the costs when you have more
raise
units of
their
benefit.
costs up front, because now they have 4 units of benefit, not 2.
Correct, but they're not paying on the unit of benefit until another year before that goes in their tax rolls. So they could be selling these, the project could be done, or they could be selling these to developers without ever paying a bill.
I do think, though, that was their choice.
No,
I wouldn't feel comfortable forcing that on a
No,
group
it's not.
that
It's providing
chose
additional
not to.
information. This
Okay.
isn't a board decision. This is their decision.
Yeah.
I'm trying to provide additional
Don't
information.
they have to use them to operate the system until
Yeah, they
construction is
can't. They
complete?
can't sell those till after the construction, so they'd be paying that first. Yeah.
2 of the lots have the well houses on it. The other 2 lots are completely vacant, to my understanding. Is that correct? Which means those 2 lots could be built on tomorrow, in theory. That's what I'm trying to get at.
They don't-
But, so,
They wouldn't be able to tap into the existing well system.
Correct.
So if they don't have water, they can't be built on yet, because our system won't be there today. You have to, in order to develop it, you know this as a developer,
correct,
you have to have water and sewer, and they don't have that.
correct. But the building process takes 3 to 6 months for planning. So why the builder would have to pay for this as soon as he's doing it. So I just wanted to understand that. Thank you, Jen. And then, as the board, two people had mentioned regarding the SAD policy that we had changed recently, that raised the percent that's added to it from 0.5% to 1%. When was the last time that percentage was raised, if we know that? And in the past, have we imposed the current percentage, or will we go back to what was done during the process?
That was actually something that we all talked about too, is that's a discussion one that we can change tonight, because I personally thought that was for ones not in the process of public hearings.
Okay.
So Jen brought that to our attention today, saying, hey, this one has the new one, what should we do? And we said that was gonna be a board decision, where I personally thought once we were in the public hearing process, it was for the next ones. You know, like Vernon Estates is petitioning, but they're not here yet. So
Okay.
that's a discussion point that Jen was already prepared to say, what does the board think? So that's
Perfect.
something that we could talk about not
I
doing on
think-
this one and doing for future ones.
Because again, based on what people are saying, two people brought that up, and that
Yeah.
makes logical sense to me. And again, we're trying to save money. If we can save $80,000, that matters.
Did you want to comment on that, or do you have another?
I think I'm
wanna
good. Go
piggyback
ahead,
on
Neil.
I'm ready to move on. Thank you for your presentation.
Of course.
Very helpful, I think, to everybody here. Thank you to the board, did an outstanding job. It's been a long haul, I know, and thank you for all the homeowners. I know it's been, you talked about our patience. You've been patient also, and we appreciate that. First of all, it's a no-brainer for me that this needs to move, needs to move forward. It is a safety issue. It is a public health issue. There's not enough water there with enough water pressure in case of a fire, which unfortunately, some of the homeowners have already discovered that firsthand. The water is not healthy, and it's time that certainly all the homeowners have water that most of us in the community already have. In addition to that, certainly as a gateway to the northeast section quadrant of the township, it certainly increases your value. Increases the value when this is completed, increases the value when you anyone who wants to move in and purchase a home there certainly is going to have additional value with city water. So the other part is, yeah, I was not here when that increase was discussed by the board for going from 1/2 to 1.5. If I had been here, I would have been 100% against it. I don't think we should do that. Certainly in this situation, it should not be imposed on the group as they're in the process of having this approved, hopefully, and moving forward. So it should, at the very least, no more than 0.5%. At some point, I would like to readdress the whole issue of going to 1.5% because I am adamantly against it, and unfortunately, I wasn't here.
Just to go back to yours, he has the dates of the times that it's changed.
Yeah, and on the policy itself, the last page lists the prior resolutions, the dates of those. And the last one that was just done was August 26, 24. Prior to that, there was a December 12th, 2022. And then prior to that one was a May 9th, 2016. And there were several before those, but that's kind of the period.
Seems like
where
every
we
5 or
address them.
6 years there's a change.
And I do have the calculations. If we decide to bring those fees back down to the previous amount, it saves each unit a benefit roughly $360. It would bring them down to $23,550.42.
So if that helps you guys, I talked with Chris Kalinsky about his idea for those lots. It's something that you guys can look into. It's not something that we have a weigh in on, but I thought it was very creative when he and I discussed that privately. I totally am supportive of this. As someone who's carried petitions and knows some of these processes, and it's hard, but your turnout tonight was incredible. It was pretty much unanimous that you guys want to move forward. And so for us, that makes things even easier for us to approve for you. But I was one of the board members that questioned that increase recently in the bond percentage. And I would definitely say you guys were already in process, and I don't think you should be part of any increase in that.
Without doing a technical vote, it sounds like all of us tend to be in support of that, so I think we're good with that. At least I don't hear anybody saying no to that about this, so I think we can all loop in that we're good with that. But is there anything else in addition to possibly not adding that onto this? Are there any other questions? And I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry. I thought Neil was piggybacking on the other one. Did you have more questions?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm not that old. Ma'am. Does anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I'll just add, I want to give a big thank you to the staff. I know I kind of, put you under the ringer a little bit last time, and it was great to hear from the residents how helpful the meeting with them was. And so I want you to know that I very much appreciate, I know it's a lot of additional work. And, but with that said, that is what we're here to do. We're here to support township residents, and I'm happy to see that we were able to provide that support. The only comment that I want to make, we did hear some comments about, if the township can contribute more, and somebody in public comment said the township should pay for the entire project. The one thing I just want to stress, and Supervisor Walsh did touch on this, the water system is paid for by the water customers, so no property taxes go towards the water system, which is why you are being tasked now with paying for this. And a special assessment district is exactly that. It's a district that is being uniquely benefited, right? So these water pipes are going to give water to your homes, not to any other homes in the township, which is why you are responsible for that initial cost. The money that the township has in reserves in the water fund is there for emergencies if something happens to the system. And we've seen from past experiences here in the township, when there are emergencies in the water system, it is not cheap. These can be millions of dollars. We had one recently, I think it was $2 or $3 million that we had to pay. So when you're talking about $5 million to pay for the entire system out of a reserve that has, I'm not sure where we're at now, but that's a big chunk of money, and we need that money to be stewards of the system and make sure that in the event that there ever is an emergency, that emergency is taken care of immediately, does not affect the system at large, and we continue to provide clean water on demand to all of the water users in Bloomfield Township. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that, and I certainly I'm in favor of not adding that additional 1%. I was also under the impression that it would be all projects moving forward, and this has, obviously been well underway. So I do believe that that should be waived in this instance. And beyond that, I'm certainly in support of this project and look forward to this neighborhood having clean water and not having to rely on bottled water.
And then I know some people have, again, like touched on the taxes, and someone said, well, why can't you just pay for it, or a couple million? And again, that's what, in 2019, I know somebody earlier mentioned stuff and wasn't maybe here in 2019, but $4 million set the township in a crazy budget crisis, and public services were cut, police were cut, animal welfare was shut down, household hazardous waste taxes past 10 mils. Townships, unlike the city that person's from, can't raise your taxes past 10 mils. So we are working under that. So when you say, well, just add more, we can't raise taxes to pay for things like this because we have to keep within our 10 mils. So that's why the water utility, although also separate, there just isn't $4 million, $5 million, $8 million laying around. So I just want to remind people, it's only been about 4 years, but luckily a lot of people forgot how bad it was 4 years ago. But that is something that we don't have $5 million laying around to do that. So although I'm sure everybody up here would love to do as much as we could, and that's where we were able to get where we were, that's one of the things that holds us back. We just don't have those funds. Michael, anything? Martin, anything?
Just briefly, and everybody's hit on it, and I support what's been discussed so far. And I just want to add to what's been said before on one particular front or two, perhaps, is this has been a collaborative effort with lots and lots of people, and it really starts with you guys in the community and the HOA leaders. And thank you for being there and doing all of this hard work. From getting the signatures to having all the meetings and discussing this issue. And it's not an easy one, and it's difficult. And I empathize with the folks that have to pay all of this. The cost of public infrastructure falls ultimately on us as individuals that live in this community or in this state. And that is the reality that we're in. Infrastructure is an area that's really going to become a bigger and bigger area over time, and this is the beginning. Today, we're not really pushing this over the finish line or anything. It might feel a little bit like it, but the project will only start, and there will be challenges, and there will be more needs to communicate and talk, and let's keep the lines of communication open, and the resources are here, thanks to the supervisor and the board as a whole, to make sure that this project goes along well, if the board supports it, and that the construction occurs quickly. That's something that we've all worked hard to do, to get this all along faster than initially projected. So thank you to the residents, thank you to the staff, and I look forward to tackling the future challenges that are going to come up to make sure this project is a success ultimately.
Make a motion unless there's more discussion.
Unless there's more discussion, I think we're good.
Okay.
I'd
like to.
Yeah, sorry.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the project in a positive way with the same, we'll keep the rate down to half.
Right, and you have that amount. Can you give me what the unit of benefit would then be? Just so we have that in the motion too.
In the what? It's both of them, yeah. It'll be dropping both the township admin and management fee, as well as the township legal and financing costs. So your new total project cost would be $5,086,890.75, giving everybody a total unit of benefit of $23,550.42.
Good with that?
Support.
Support, trustee Barnett, support, was it Kalinsky?
Yes,
Did you- Support by trustee Kalinsky, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass, so thank you. And then it looked like there were a couple questions. Corey's here if you'd like to meet him out in the lobby. I saw a couple hands going up. You're welcome. What's that? Is there another what?
There's 4B.
4B, yeah. Are you part of that?
No.
No. You're welcome. I just. All right.
All right, hold on,
Andrea. Andrea, we have one more. Andrea, we have one more.
We'll want it.
We'll wait a minute until they.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I completely agree. That was amazing.
Talk to Corey, there's a backup plan. He'll tell you the backup plan for the emergency. Talk to Corey.
He'll be out in the lobby.
He'll be out in the library, you can talk to him. Thank you. You're very funny, by the way.
She's adorable. She was one of my favorites last week. All right, so next we have agenda item 4B presented by Treasurer Shostak.
Thank you. So.
You want to give it another minute, or are you good?
Yeah. In the effort to get this project going as soon as possible, we already have a contract that has been approved. We've now approved the special assessment role. So we have the ability to front the money. Basically, the township will front the money to begin the project as soon as possible. And we will reimburse the township general fund using bond proceeds when we do eventually bond. The question was asked, when will we bond? Well, unfortunately, we're going to go into a little bit of a crazy period in the market because of the election, the new year, the holidays. So it's probable that we will not actually go to market with these bonds until March or April.
You expect them to be lower at that time?
There is an expectation that rates will be lower as the Fed continues to lower rates, although the Fed does not directly impact municipal bond rates. But municipal bond rates tend to float, in correlation with the Treasury rates. So needless to say, I've discussed this with our finance director and our supervisor, and we all agree that the township is willing to put the money up to start the project as soon as possible, mindful of the fact that the bonding will probably not occur until the second quarter of next year. So what the agenda item here is, and you can find it on page 31 of your packet, is the resolution that the board declares its intent to reimburse the project costs that we will be fronting with our bond proceeds when we eventually have them. Okay, so this is the same resolution that we pass every single time we do one of these SADs, so that we can get the project started. The township will front some money, and then we'll bond and reimburse ourselves. So, or the district will reimburse the township. So this is a standard resolution. It's drafted by our bond counsel, 2 pages, and basically just says that our intent is to reimburse the township with the bond proceeds.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, just, I think this is great that we do this because that way we can get the project started as fast as possible. And again, we're being very, financially conservative with their money. The goal is to make it as cheap as possible. So we are looking at our experts to give us guidance on this. And that's what Treasurer Shosak is doing. So I super support this project and I appreciate it. Thank you for not only continuing to do this, but being mindful of timing.
I look for, do we need a motion for that then?
And the other point that I'll just add that always comes up is we have a period where we allow the homeowners to prepay the full assessment. So I believe I decided that we're going to use January 31st of next year as that deadline, so that any resident within the district can prepay the full assessment by January 31st of next year without any interest, and then any payments after January 31st would incur interest.
So since we have a resolution with no more questions, I look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Kalinsky.
Support.
Support by Trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Thank you, Treasurer
Thank you.
Shostak. So next we have Deputy Director Andrea Bibby. So it's our public hearing for considering the approval of a site plan and special land use request for Fit Body Boot Camp at 1539 Opdyke Road. And we also do have the applicant here. So we'll start with Andrea, then you, and then we'll do public comment.
Thank you. Good evening, board. Thank you for having me, Andrea Bibby from the Planning Division here at Bloomfield Township. We have a presentation before you this evening of a special land use public hearing. We have a existing business that is occurring within the B1 zoning district, which is located at South Boulevard and Opdyke Road. The address to Fit Body Boot Camp is 1539 South Opdyke. The property, as you can see, is zoned B1. This is located within the Bloomfield Hills Shopping Center on the east side of Opdyke Road and south of South Boulevard. The reason that this application is before you this evening is anytime within our township that we have, or within our business classifications between our B1 through B3 classifications, any hours of operation seeking to operate before 7 a.m. or after 9 p.m. is considered a special land use. Special land uses are required to then be presented and ultimately approved by the township board. The request specifically this evening, as you can see highlighted on your screen, identifies the current tenant space being occupied by Fit Body Boot Camp, and their request is to open at 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Thursday. They are also asking to, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and Friday from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. They also have additional hours on Saturday, but they will be within standard operating hours between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. So with that, anytime we have this type of request, we take a look at the use, the area, any potential impacts to the roadways, adjacent properties. And in this instance, this is an existing shopping center. It has been demonstrated demonstrated, it's within your packet that it's approximately 240 feet to any immediately adjacent residential property within the Bloomfield Hills subdivision, Bloomfield's Fox Hills subdivision. There are no changes to ingress or egress, so essentially there is very limited to no impact for this proposed use and their hours of operation. Apparently people like to work out at 5 a.m., which is fine. We do have the applicant here who did come to the township when they opened their business and did explain that their business need and their business model does involve a clientele that does like to work out early in the morning. So that is what the request is specifically here before you. And we did have an opportunity to share this with our design review board. They did have a positive recommendation, as well as this was heard by our planning commission at their August 5th, 2024 meeting. And so with those recommendations, we ask that tonight the board takes any public comment, maybe has an opportunity for the applicant to come and speak regarding the business, and consider under what conditions the township board would consider the special land use approval for Fit Body Boot Camp to extend their hours of operation starting at 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Fridays, and 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Saturday. So with that, I'm free to answer any questions, as well as the applicant, as I stated earlier, is here as well.
Sir Singh, do you want to come on up and introduce yourself?
Good evening. My name is Rajiv Singh, and I'm the owner of this one along with my wife, Shifali Singh. This is our passion project, and we are fighting obesity. And I think we all need to stand here just to make sure that we serve our communities, serve the clients who wants to work out before going to work. And most of our clients are women. Women carry the world around. I think if they can work out and they can be a better mom, they can serve the home, they can serve the kids in a better way, because everybody needs to come out and work out for a while. Especially we need to lead by example by portraying that exercise is a necessary thing in day-to-day life when our kids are growing with gadgets and video games.
We'll go ahead and open the public comment for this first, and then we'll come back to the board. So if anybody's here to speak on this item, please come on up. All right, so we'll close public comment and bring it to the board.
So I just want to say I don't have any problem with the hours, because I'm sure we'll all recall before COVID, Planet Fitness, which is located in Bloomfield Township, at least back then, the one at Maple and Telegraph, was open 24 hours a day. And my husband and I tend to be late night worker-outers, not 5 a.m. But I totally appreciate that that's very common, and I don't really foresee that as a problem. And if we had a 24-hour, I think the hours are well within reason, and I wish you well in your business.
Thank you very much.
Neil, did you have something to add too?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Anyone else have anything? All right.
Surprise, surprise.
Someone make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion as approved as presented.
Great. So motion by
Support.
Trustee Barnett, support by Trustee McKee. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So next we have Director Patti Voelker coming up for the introduction of proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance relating to liquor license requirements for automobile, wow, you write long ones, automobile service stations and retail package outlets. That was like a Corey one. That's a Corey Almas length.
That certainly is. Mouthful. And this is an introduction. So the good news is that we're just looking to see if there is interest to set a public hearing date with this proposal, so there's no action being taken specifically tonight. So if I can have you recall, let's go back, April 8th, the board asked me to present a summary of the liquor license ordinance provisions and our application process, and at that time there was a discussion of specifically automobile service stations. And at the time that we were reviewing those provisions with you, you made a motion very specifically to review those standards with the Planning Commission, and highlighted, looking specifically at the area specifically of building size and lot size with that criteria. So we did forward the proposal on to the Planning Commission with the overview of their current language. And if I could just highlight that for you today, right now, here we go. right now, gas stations are permitted in the B3 district. And within the B3 district, a gas station may be permitted to sell, is permitted if it meets these standards. So this is just for a gas station or an automobile service station, but I'll refer to it as gas stations. That the sale of gasoline and automotive convenience items may be permitted. Incidental auto service work may also be permitted. That there be ingress or egress to not cause traffic hazards. That there be a minimum driveway, a minimum of 25 feet from intersections, and obviously that's for line of sight and safety. And lastly, that the minimum lot size of 22,500 square feet or 0.51 acres with adequate on-site queuing. That's the standards in the B3 district that allows for a gas station. For the sale of liquor, going beyond now, talking about retail package outlets, another component of our zoning ordinance that addresses liquor, the sale of liquor, is retail package outlets. And they are permitted within our B2 and our B3 district. These locations must be a minimum of 250 feet from school property by the shortest route to travel. And also, it identifies that an SDD license shall not exceed one for each 3,000 population. So an SDM license, which is by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, is the sale of packaged beer and wine for off-site consumption. An SDD license by the Liquor Control Commission is a sale of packaged beer, wine, and/or liquor for off-site consumption. So that provision of B is referring to beer, wine, and/or liquor for off-site consumption. Presently, the township has 15, based on our population, licenses allowed, of which 15 SDD licenses have been issued by the township. The SDM license, which is the beer and wine, we have, based on our population, 45 licenses that are allowed, and we have 19 presently. Examples of retail package outlets are the Long Lake Market, Kroger's, Eddie Merlot's, CVS's, Hollywood Market, and Target, just to name a few. We did provide a summary of the Michigan Liquor Control Commission report for your reference, giving those totals that we were referring to. There was an amendment to the licensing standards as it relates to the distance from point of sale, and I'll speak to that when I go through the provisions related to automobile sales, automobile service stations that would like to be able to have the opportunity for a liquor license as well as to be allowed to sell beer, wine, and alcoholic beverages. Our ordinance is very specific that all of these standards have to be met, that there be a minimum of 50 feet from cash register to fuel pumps, no drive-through operations, the minimum 4,000 square foot building with one parking space per 200 square feet be the parking calculation. There be a frontage on a major thoroughfare. There be no service or repair operations, not adjacent to residential zone property. There be a minimum 1 acre parcel for a single user. And one of the or both of these conditions, that is located within the neighborhood shopping center, and a minimum $250,000 inventory on premises, excluding alcoholic beverages and gasoline sales. The provisions were specific to the gas station and allowance of liquor sales was providing, was reviewed based on our current locations within the township. This is a zoning map, and for your benefit, we have identified all of the gas stations that currently are found within the township. There are 12 located within the township. Of those 12, I have provided an analysis for you that's been part of the packet. This analysis can be summarized in a variety of ways, and if I could just highlight some of the provisions that we were speaking of. One is that of these 12 existing gas stations in the B3 district, You'll notice that I've highlighted on the third column all of the gas stations that are found within the B3 district, and those are highlighted, and there are 8 of them. The others that are found, the other 5, are found in our B1 local business district, and they're considered existing non-conforming. Of the 8 gas stations, 5 meet the minimum lot area of 22,500 square feet or 0.51 acres. So that now is the 5th column with the gray heading that says SD, pardon me. Here we go. Okay, let's go to the 4th column. Here we go, 4th column. For the heading, it says lot sizes for service stations, 0.51 acres. If you look down that column, you'll notice that there are highlighted in yes, meaning that it does meet that criteria. And with the listing of 12, we have 5 that meet that criteria. To go on and look at some of the other standards, and we've highlighted some of those within this chart. Again, reiterating that they have to be 50 feet from the pumps to the cash register, no drive-through operations, a 4,000 square foot building, frontage on a major thoroughfare, no commercial vehicle service, not adjacent to residential zone property, a minimum of 1 acre, or either located in a part of a shopping center or applicant maintains a minimum inventory of 250,000. So looking at those standards that were part of the discussion when we were reviewing, those that set apart the recommendations as the board directed. For the SDD or SDM, not adjacent to residential district, that really doesn't apply in this instance because of those 5 that are found in the B3 district and do have a greater than a half-acre parcel, they are not adjacent to a residential district. Also, that they, the other criteria of speaking to whether those locations have a drive-through, we have only one instance in the township where there is a drive-through, and it happens to be one that falls within a property that is zone B3. So we have put an asterisk next to that address underneath the Telegraph and Maple intersection grouping, just to highlight that that is a provision that is addressed in our current provisions as well as what we're suggesting to go forward. And lastly, the last column is that no vehicle service and repair. We do have 2 examples within the township that do have service or repair, and it happens that, again, there is one of the B3 gas stations that have met the minimum land area of the 1 acre, a half acre, excuse me, over half an acre, and is in the B3 district, and that does have service and repair, and that's near the intersection of Telegraph and Long Lake. The other part of the review is just to parallel that as you were looking at these provisions relative to the sale of packaged liquor for off-site consumption, that is the definition, as we refer to, of a retail package outlet. And so I wanted at least to show the board that there, by the first 2 columns, when you're looking at the retail package outlet standards and you're looking at the allowance of them to be in the B2 or B3 district, we do have several of those that are found within the B3 district. And also the other criteria that they are at least a minimum distance 750 feet from a school. And again, those B3 properties are meeting that criteria. So there's a parallel of retail package outlet standards to our provisions related to gas stations that have the potential to sell packaged alcohol on the premises if they comply with the standards. So as we look at all of the provisions, we can summarize by saying of the 5 B3 gas stations meeting the 0.51 acres, none of the locations meet all the criteria for alcohol sales. 1 location meets the minimum 1.0 acre lot size for alcohol sales. None of the locations meet the 4,000 square foot building. 1 location has a drive-through operation which is not permitted with alcohol sales.
and one location has vehicle sale, service, and repair operations, which is not permitted with alcohol sales. In regard to the standards, the Liquor Control Commission does allow and has amended their licensing standards to change the minimum distance from the point of sale to the fuel dispenser from 50 feet to 5 feet per the standard as attached within your packet. So the recommendation that we have concluded as part of our review and some of our discussion that we're going to continue to go on and discuss is to amend the distance from sales to fuel pumps from that 50 feet to 5 feet to be consistent with that standard. But also the criteria relating to a building size from 4,000. There was a discussion that was held by the Planning Commission, both as we introduced it as well as through the hearing process, of having a concern initially as presented to them that there would be no need for a standard for minimum building size because of the constraints that are already placed upon the site itself as it relates to the building size, also correlates to the number of parking spaces, the number of drive aisles, or the means of ingress and egress and drive aisles, and also the setbacks required for the building and for the parking lot and circulation are already dimensional elements and criteria that are part of the overall puzzle of compliance when you're looking at all these zoning requirements and these dimensional requirements. However, the Planning Commission felt that there should be a minimum standard, and looking to the criteria that was provided in the schedule, and also looking at the information that we have within our department, that 2,000 square feet did provide the opportunity for a retail package or a convenience store operation to be also part of a gas station operation that would have then the ability to be able to comply with the provisions in addition to building size, but also for, as I said before, parking and setbacks and parking setbacks and drive aisle widths and parking width standards. So that was presented to the Planning Commission with at their meeting this August. Also, we looked at the question came to what is the impact relating to a proposal that amended the provisions and thereby has the potential of applications coming before the township in at least 3 of the 5 potentially. And I say 3 out of 5 because Costco is one of the locations that's in the B3 district that meets the criteria for a retail package outlet, has that minimum 0.5 acreage, and has the ability to build a building of 2,000 square foot size, but most likely because of their operational standard, that's not a likely candidate to come forward. We do have another location that as I said earlier, that has a drive-through, which would have to be eliminated, and also another location that has a vehicle service. So with those factors, I'm presenting to the board with this analysis that there could be up to 3 locations, 2 locations that has the real potential to be able to meet any criteria that the board is being considered based on the Planning Commission's input. The other aspect that the Planning Commission wanted to discuss was just the impact of the criteria and that potential of those 2 gas stations to come forward with a request. Is there any potential impact to police services and any feedback that we would have from our surrounding police agencies? And so we specifically asked our police chief, Gallagher, to provide a report at the time we had our public hearing. The police chief did provide a report. It's in your packet. He did identify that he contacted several neighboring police departments
and then reported that no negative impact to public safety, and also that the agencies did not report an increase in crime or calls for service. So the board is forwarding that information on to the Township Board for your consideration as well. The specific provisions, now looking at the highlight of the ordinance, is to revise the distance from sales to fuel pump from 50 to 5 feet, again, be consistent. Revise the minimum building size from 4,000 to 2,000 square feet. Revise the parking to 1 parking space per 300 square feet. The ordinance for all gas stations requires that there be a parking standard of 1 parking space for 300 square feet. When the ordinance was adopted in 2014, it proposed that the gas station would have, with liquor sales, would have a more restrictive parking standard of 1 parking space for 200 square feet. So we're recommending that that parking ratios remain at 1 for 300 for our calculation purposes. So we have consistency throughout all of our gas stations, so that whether they are seeking a permission for a liquor license or they are standard gas station, we still have consistency with that parking ratio. Eliminate the minimum 1 acre parcel for a single user. We have identified the challenges of trying to acquire additional property, but also for the fact that you're looking at those that were found within the township, and we do already have a standard of 0.51 acres, and that minimum acre parcel, again, is not really relevant given the locations that we presently have in the township. And then add a minimum of 750 feet distance to any school property, wanting to have some consistency with the recommendations found within the retail package outlet. Again, trying to parallel the retail package outlet standards with the potential use of a gas station with also that convenience store additional use. And then lastly, prohibit the sale of 50 milliliter, 1.67 ounce mini alcohol bottles. Those are the little bottles that you would get from on the airplane. That's the size that we're referring to. And that was brought up by the Planning Commission and Planning Commissioners. So we have added that also within our ordinance amendment. And then lastly, regarding the retail package outlets, keeping the language as it presently, but suggesting eliminate the SDD provisions for 1 for every 3,000 population. That is a regulation that is enforced by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, not the township. And in this instance, because there is an allowance for communities to have SDD licenses transferred from one municipality to another, we actually can exceed the number of our quota. It's just that we can't assign more than what our quota allows, but we can actually receive transferred license. So in essence, we would be limiting our ability to go more if needed or preferred, going more than what our allowance would allow for an SDD, and that is presently 15. Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 4th. At the conclusion of that public hearing and the public comments, the motion was made unanimously to forward this on to the Township Board for your consideration with the comments that were provided. I have identified the criteria that the board is asking the Planning Commission is asking the board to consider. Those are I've highlighted on the last screen. We have had an opportunity to review the ordinance as it has amended over the last 2 meetings with the Planning Commission with the Township Attorney's Office, and they found it acceptable as presented and drafted. So we're asking the board to discuss the proposal and the comments received from the Planning Commission and consider setting a public hearing date for October 14th for consideration of this proposed Ordinance 690, relating to the amended standards for an automobile service station to sell alcoholic beverages for off-site consumption, and also proposed ordinance 692 as an amendment to the zoning ordinance to amend the use standards for retail package outlets. So with that, I can answer any questions or.
You have any questions?
So I have a bunch of questions. So just to clarify that I got it right, the SDD license is 15 limited, and we have 15 currently, so we really can't add any more unless they're transfers.
Correct.
Okay, so that number is kind of locked in. The SDM license, we have 19. We can have as many as 45, but that is beer and wine only, so that would not affect the little mini liquor bottles or any of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I didn't have it wrong. So one of the comments that was in the packet was that 7 of 10 customers just come for drinks, snacks, presumably it could be alcohol at this point if we allowed that, and not gas, that it's heavily convenience used. So I kind of see that seems we're going backward if we allow less parking. Because if we add alcohol, that's another reason to come just for that. That might increase the traffic. So I guess I don't understand why we'd lessen parking if we might be increasing traffic. Can you touch base on why it was 50 feet and all the way down to 5 feet in terms of that distance? It seems like a huge change.
Well, to your first question regarding the parking is what the zoning ordinance does not take into account is, which is more of a common occurrence, is when you do pump gas. Rarely does someone who wants to maybe just pay at the pump, and if they wanted to go in and buy a pack of gum, then most likely they're not going to move their vehicle to a parking spot. They're going to stay there. So one thing about gas stations is that we don't take into account the ability for people to park within, the pump islands themselves. And so that's why the 1 for 300 calculation or the provision was established by the township initially, and not necessarily overburdening that parking requirement of going to 1 for 200, which is actually our retail standard. Okay. Because they already have that benefit of that on-site parking through the pump islands.
Okay.
And the one for, and the distance from 50 to 5, because that was a change from the Liquor Control Commission, my understanding was it had to do with just the proximity so that you could have like kiosk sales, which would be an example at Costco, but not a drive-through operation, so that you couldn't pass liquor through, a window, if you will. So I think it's related to that. I don't know if Mark has any insight with the change from 50 to 5.
All I know is it's related to the state standards, so it's more in conformity with that. I don't know the genesis of the state standard of that.
It just appeared that it has something, I would think there's logic from sales to Pump Island that for proximity, it would have to be a drive-through operation. I can't think of another circumstance where
it just seemed like a big change from 5 to 50. So something that I don't think you touched on today but was in the packet was auto repair shops not being able to, if they're doing auto repair on the premises. And I guess I would have a problem with alcohol being sold where people are sitting waiting for their car to get fixed, or there's mechanics working there to have the alcohol so convenient. But one other question, sorry to have so many, is I don't know the standards in terms of the cashiers, in terms of it seems to me that if you have to go into Kroger or Costco in terms of carding, and yet if you just run into the gas station and can buy, that there's more opportunity for wink, wink, nod, nod, not checking. Do they have to, what are the ages? Is there a minimum age for the cashiers to sell it? And what is the policy of checking ID or scanning because it just seems like it's a less visible place and where somebody might want to underage try and buy alcohol. That's my concern.
Those are all excellent questions. And we did have some input from one of the current gas station owners who spoke of the more contemporary ID scanning, so that the interpretation or looking at a ID is not necessarily just the individual at point of sale, but actually you're using software. And then also, if you don't purchase, then and you're not processing correctly through that software, then you're not. It's not by a user that's authorized to be able to process within that system. That's also another check. But beyond that, I would have to either defer to Mark or defer to maybe the police department, because I don't have the standards related to how the Liquor Control Commission is going to be looking upon that user to make sure that they comply, because that's the responsibility of the operator.
And just to dovetail on that, the standard for a minimum age for the sale of alcohol, that's state law, and that doesn't change from whether it's a package store or a gas station. It's going to be the same, and it's going to be enforced. And I believe I saw, could be wrong on this, but I believe I saw on the police write-up on this that they would, if passed, they would include the gas stations in their regular enforcement efforts. So to the extent you're concerned about enforcement, I believe the police are able to do that, and the standards remain the same between the two, coupled with the enhanced technology that you face even at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
You mean like when we send people in to see if a bartender is serving?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else have questions?
I just had a question regarding the building size. So, as an attorney, sometimes I have to consider legislative intent. So I just want to be sure that I'm clear on our intent in having this as a requirement. I didn't see in the Planning Commission minutes that they explained why they thought that was a relevant requirement.
Well, I recall that there's some of the Planning Commission members were concerned that if we didn't have a minimum building size, then there could be something that was not of the caliber that would be expected of either an investment or for security and for safety, and also to be able to set apart the kiosk kind of operation that Costco has to more of a development that has an investment with a given size of a building, to be able to accommodate the uses that you're looking to include within a given building. So it'd be the retail sales, the convenience items, the beverage sales, but also that looking at what we have in our area, we have gas stations that have square footage. Even those in the B1 district that are non-conforming, that are approximating, the 2,000 square foot. And then just pulling some of the site plans and looking at, how that can then be able to be met with the parking standards and the setback requirements for both landscaping and parking dimensions. We stressed on the Planning Commission that there's so many dimensional restrictions that sometimes building size is self-regulated, because the bigger size of building you have, there's more impact to then the residual dimensional requirements, parking and so forth. So yet the board felt more confident that if there was at least a minimum of 2,000, or at least, and I think it was even referred to as what was provided, but it is the source of that determination was based on the existing square footage that we have in the township.
The only observation I'll say, or I'll make rather, is, with the example of the Costco kiosk, they're not going to have space in that kiosk to display and be able to sell beer and wine. So I think that the other requirements are reasonable, but and I don't know that anybody else on the board has an opinion about it, but I'm not sure that that's a necessary requirement, and that's all I have for now.
Understood.
Anybody else?
Sure, I have some thoughts. And they kind of fit into two categories. One is, how we're doing this, how we're going about it, the process, the procedure, the notice to the community, an opportunity to provide some input. And then the other is on the nature of the revisions themselves. So we've talked about some of those already. Val pointed one out about the parking spaces, and that's a concern I have too. You can pull into a lot of gas stations and not find parking and feel bad that you're pulling up to a pump even though you're not buying gas and running in to get something. So that's an ongoing concern I have. The sizing issue is one Stephanie's mentioned. And I also am wondering about how we got to some of these other factors. So, there's the lot size. Half an acre was chosen. Is there some reason why it wasn't 3/4 of an acre or 1/3 of an acre? The other area is the service and repair. So I get Val's point about the service and repair and folks perhaps purchasing and drinking on site, but that would also be a violation. It's not for on-site drinking. We're talking a license that is a package retail type of license.
Off-site.
If anyone were to open it and be drinking on site, that would be a violation of the license.
Correct.
So, and the no drive-through, that's in state law too, right? So even if we change that in ours, there's still a state law about no drive-through feature. That's accurate? I have that right?
Oh, I included that section in the ordinance. Let me see if I can find it in your packet. Must be right past it. I don't have that section within the ordinance, in the liquor, the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. I just have the provision relevant to the 5 feet from the point of motor vehicle fuel is dispensed. So I would have to confirm that criteria for you.
Okay, that'd be good to know.
Okay.
And there's a couple of other sort of, going through all of the criteria that are listed here. One other, or two others really pop up to me. One is hours. So there isn't any requirement for hours of sale of alcohol. Gas stations are oftentimes open quite late, maybe open all the time, but state law says 2 a.m. Right now, we have packaged liquor license places or restaurants, but they have hours of operation that would be much more limited than a 2 a.m. time period. So I would urge us to look at some sort of hours here too, and to consider that. When the township initially adopted many of these rules, that was one of the factors that folks were concerned about. Leaving the restaurant at 10, and the only place they could, if they're already drinking and they want to buy some more, they'd pop into a gas station and compound the problem even more. And so something that is in line with other restaurants, package stores, I think makes some sense. And in line with item 5, which is the mini alcohol bottles or liquor, vodka and so forth. Similar to that concern, which is that folks are going to buy it in a bag, a bunch of them, and leave it and drink them at lunch or whatever, and go back to work, would be the sale of single beers. You see a lot of that these days. They're selling a single can that might be 28 ounces or something. So I would want to look at that too as a addition to the prohibiting of sale of mini alcohol bottles. It would be looking at prohibiting the sale of singles like that. There might be a term of art that is used. I don't know. So I just have really a lot of questions about the details of this, which I think we could spend some time hashing out. Because overall, I don't have an objection to this idea. And I think that I can get to a place to support this. On the other side of this, which was the process standpoint, is it accurate? Is it accurate to say that the township hasn't ever had a gas station selling alcohol before?
That's correct.
And that's because we've either had it's either been not allowed in our zoning ordinances or been prohibited by the zoning ordinances, or presently the zoning ordinance is sufficiently strict that nobody qualifies.
That's correct.
And if you go back and look at the late 2000s, 08, 07 timeframe, when there were amendments to the zoning ordinance to add these things, there was a good amount of concern at that time to maintain the character of the township of not having gas stations with liquor licenses and selling alcohol. So some amendments were made to the zoning stuff. So I just see this as one of those fairly major changes to the way things have been here for a very long period of time. I'm not opposed to the change. As I said, I generally support the idea. But I don't want our residents to be surprised by this, that we could do more to communicate this. We could do more to ensure that people know about the change, so they've got concerns, they can come in and ask about it. As far as I know, nobody is coming, no citizens are coming to you asking for our gas stations to be allowed to sell them alcohol, right? I mean,
That wasn't the impetus behind this, no.
and I understand that the owners have an interest in doing that in different places, and it makes perfect sense to me, and I don't want to restrict their right to engage in commerce any more than we really absolutely have to protect the citizens. But timing, I think, is really important. There's much more I think we could do with regard to educating the community that we're looking at making this type of a change. We do lots of other changes, and the process whereby the zoning board issues a public notice and the planning commission does so, and the board of trustees will be issuing a notice too. All of that's required by law, and that's great, but I see this as just one of those larger changes that I think we should take more time to do more education to our community that we're looking at making this kind of a change. So I would encourage us to slow down on this. I don't support setting a public hearing on it. I think instead we should move the direction of doing a study session to talk about the particular contours of where we're at on this and why it's 2,000 square feet or a half an acre, or why the parking is going to 300 instead of 200, and really drill down on this over some time and use that time also to let our community know that this is being discussed, so nobody's surprised about it.
I think if anyone's going to be surprised, it's going to be that we don't allow it.
Yeah, we're the only one in the state.
I mean, if you read Chief Gallagher's report, he contacted all of the neighboring communities that all allow this. And I think we are overthinking and overregulating an industry that's already regulated. And we are way behind the times on this subject. So, West Bloomfield, Birmingham, Royal Oak, they all allow it. They've all had it. Their police chief said that there was no impact on public safety. People aren't showing up and popping a fifth of vodka and sitting on the stoop. I mean, it's not happening. So.
Do we know, I really appreciate what Clerk Brook said. I agree with a lot of the points he made. And the one about the hours, I mean, the state law is 2 a.m. Do we know how other communities that sell at gas stations that are open 24 hours a day, how they handle that?
On that one, because I liked the limited hours. I reached out when this first came up, because you're right, I was surprised to learn that we used to be with a few that didn't do it, and now we're the only ones. So reaching out to like Grosse Pointe and some of the others that I kind of feel we are similar to, mostly residential, they have limited hours. So not only do they have the special software, so it takes away the opportunity, but they had limited hours, and I liked that. And they also had limited, what you mentioned about sizing. They had, the limited, it wasn't just not the little things, but it was, but I don't
Oh,
know if
the
it's
tall
six
boys
packs
you
or
can sell,
higher.
yeah.
Yeah, like it would. They had limitations on sizing that was allowed, hours that were allowed, and how you could do it. So, and they had it for 5 years. So they kind of gave a report. Then I can always forward that. But I kind of did that same due diligence of why are we the only one in the state? What has changed? But it seems like since COVID, it used to be a few of us that were in this zone, but now with limitations, almost all the limitations you mentioned has gone into these other communities that have now allowed it. So that's the same thing, like limited hours, the software.
Well, how would we handle the fact that if we change the parameters and we have 15 SDD licenses and they're all in use? So that's going to limit that. So that means they could only get a beer and wine license at this time. Unless, like you said, the transfers, which don't count. So although I totally appreciate and, you know, the commerce, and I actually know someone who owns a gas station, and first thing he asked me was, how come we don't allow liquor sales in our gas stations? So I was aware of this issue. But if we have a limit of 15 and we're at 15, there isn't an opportunity for that unless the transfers, and if someone owns, say, you know, 5 gas stations, they could transfer in and suddenly we could have, you know, if they transfer their other liquor licenses because they could get it in their community or whatever, our 15 limit is sort of a moot point because transfers don't count. So how does that affect? If we have a limit of 15, it's not going to be a limit of 15 if transfer licenses don't apply to that count. It's just like I said to Martin, like Martin said, you know, there's just a lot of questions. And I agree the community should know. It shouldn't be a surprise. Everybody else around us sells it, so I get that. On the other hand, you know, before we make this change, you know, just make it carefully. Neil?
Yeah, obviously it's a significant change to the policy that the township has had over the years where we've never allowed the sales of alcohol in service stations. To go from one extreme to the other, just allowing it to any gas station, any service station, would be, I think, something that the residents as a whole would be against. So I think it does need to be somewhat regulated. I disagree with you, Michael. I mean, unless your thought is we should
I never
have
said no
some.
regulation. I
Okay.
never said no regulation.
Said overregulated.
I said overregulated.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. So I do believe it needs to be regulated if we're going to do this. I'm not saying I'm against it, but you know, people have long memories here. You know, 11 years ago we went to the Supreme Court to protect the fact that we're not going to allow these sales of liquor at gas stations. We spent, over $100,000 to defend ourselves to make sure the policy was the way that we wanted it. Now, if we're going to allow it, again, I think it's very important that we don't go to the other extreme. One of the reasons, in addition, Stephanie, you asked why the policy or the thought behind the 2,000 square feet, you absolutely hit it right there. As far as we want to make sure that the space represents the township well, that it's not just a little kiosk or a small station, but it's a nice looking facility that fits in the township. But in addition to that, to limit the number of stations that can sell alcohol, because there's no way in hell I'm voting for it if we're going from not allowing it at all to allowing it to almost every station. That's just something I cannot live with, and I would never support that.
I don't think that's what you were.
I understand that, but it does limit it more by having a 2,000 minimum of 2,000 square feet. In addition, there was a very good point, Martin, about the hours. I agree with you 100%. I think we also need to consider signage. I see some of these service stations that sell liquor, and I mean, it's huge signs all over the place of liquor. I mean, it's like the name of the place is liquor, and I think that's important. That does not represent the township. To get back to your question, I have not heard one person, one resident who's asking for this. I know people who are against it, in the township. So I think it's important that there is some education, that people understand what the possibilities are, that this is a consideration. And again, I'm not saying I wouldn't vote against, I'm not saying I wouldn't support it, but I do think it needs to have some regulations, and people need to be aware that this is a consideration that we may move forward with.
You know, one thing that I also like the size being a requirement, only because because when we went into this, I didn't know anything about this situation either. So looking up at NACS, which is the National Association of Convenience Stores. So knowing that when we're looking at these, as there's gas station kiosks, there's this, and then there's some that have put in money into buildings, make them more, and the average was about 2,000. So I'm guessing that might have been where the impetus started of where to even start with what's a convenience store. But yeah, I also like the fact that it encourages a development to look nicer, to be bigger, to be more than just liquor sales. Living here 52 years, I was surprised when wine stores started coming around, to be honest. Back in the day in the 70s, it was people outside with their thing in a Molt, what is it, Colt 45 in the thing. I never thought those would come. And now you've got wine shops surrounded. So I was surprised when people started drinking wine as much as they do. So it definitely has changed. So that's why I had to look and say, where did these numbers even come from? And it does seem like that's the average size of a convenience store. So it does separate it from a gas station kind of thing.
Just to add, we do still have the provision regarding limiting the hours of operation in the B3 district as a special land use. So hours that are beyond 9 p.m. would be considered a special land use. So that would also, so should somebody want to approach this proposal and try to comply with the criteria to have alcohol sales, we would also identify what their hours of operation. And if it was exceeding 9 p.m., you'd have to act on that at the time that you were acting on as a special land use. Yeah. So you have that as already in your ordinance, but you can always add more criteria to your language as you would see appropriate. And it's really a decision by the township board. I mean, you are the policymakers. So we are providing you the information and the language that we've done with our research, but we certainly can add to the discussion, and even with a study session, if that should be your ultimate direction, because it is a bigger picture that the board has to take into account.
Could we add these that we're all kind of agreeing on into the ordinance right now before it? Like, let's say that it does sound like people are okay with limited hours, like, is it something we could add in? I get that it's at a special land use, but to also just protect that extra nerve of, like, saying going from 0 to all, to let people know there's some limitations on this.
Well, I think that the ordinance as drafted would only allow 5. Is that right, Patti, or is it 3?
3 when you take the automotive.
Yeah. There'd be only 3.
3. Okay, so this isn't 0 to 100. Right. I mean, this is, we're allowing.
And it's purposely crafted that way.
Understood.
And the transfer licenses.
Well, they'd have to. They would have to transfer licenses because we're out of STD licenses, and that could be done. I mean, that there's a market that exists for that, but and also keep in mind that these gas stations have to go into the B3, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's certain areas that are B3 that exist right now, and there's a certain. It's not like we're going to see gas stations popping up all over the place. I mean, we're kind of at where we're at, and there's only 3 that qualify under the ordinance as drafted. So
there's only 3 that qualify now, but if we open up the floodgates, we may see.
I don't know what you mean.
Stations.
We're approving an ordinance that's drafted. That ordinance would only allow 3 right now, and.
Like, even if somebody at one of those others got a transfer license, they don't qualify.
They don't qualify.
So it wouldn't matter.
And it's not like you're going to see, again, it's got to be within the B3 district, so you're not going to see one at the corner of Franklin and Walnut Lake. I mean, it's like
Right, but I think it
And-
might encourage more to open up in the township because when our policies.
But they would still have to meet all the requirements of the policy if they try to build a new one.
There's also no space for it.
Right.
Where are they gonna be?
But-
That's true.
So and then.
I mean, you've got Telegraph, you've got Woodward,
On a pocket park.
Maple, Long Lake. I mean, like, there's a certain number of streets that have these kind of intersections that qualify as B3 zone. Like I said, it's not gonna be at, 14 Mile and Wing Lake. It's.
And based on what I'm hearing from Patti, there's already a way for us to limit hours of operation, because as soon as they apply for this, they have to go to special land use they want to do past 9 p.m. So we already have a built-in buffer to not have to change this ordinance. We already have it for us. So whether Martin had said hours of operation matter, we technically already have that safety net built in. So we need to amend this ordinance. It would just be a duplicate.
Which is fine to make sure it emphasizes with these type of facilities that we're looking at the hours of operation, and here's our preferred, even though it's special land use.
But aren't many service stations, gas stations open later than 9 p.m.? So if they're right now open till 11 or midnight, and then they qualify otherwise for this, then you're going to tell them they have to close completely?
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they were to add in a liquor license to they would require a brand new special land use consideration where we would be able to, at that point, change the hours or
But
vote on
would
the
that
hours.
prohibit them from selling gas? Like if they're already open
No.
till 11, it's just they can't sell the alcohol past a certain time?
Yeah.
I believe we get to vote on either one.
All in one?
We would get to decide.
Would not be all in one.
That would be the board's decision.
Yeah, I agree with Martin that I think there's a lot of pieces and parts here. And considering what Neil said with the history, which goes back before pretty much all of us, except Neil, were on this board, which is why it's good to have someone who goes back, that if there was that much put into it to keep us from doing that, then I think we need to go slow and make sure the community's aware before we make any changes.
Well, the next step would be a public hearing, just to be clear. But
Yeah, I just think there
which
is
would require
more to be-
notification, notice.
more to talk about, right?
All that, and then we would have public comment.
Absolutely, we'll certainly meet all of those, minimum thresholds, but just because of the history here, I think this one is one that begs additional level of notification to the residents so that people aren't surprised by it. And have an opportunity to know about it in advance. I think it lends more transparency to the process if we give an elongated process to allow for that kind of knowledge to percolate.
I mean, is there any
so-
reason we're rushing on this? Is there anyone that's come forward that said, I'd really like this, and would we consider this as far as businesses?
Yes, we have received requests, absolutely.
But,
You
but
mean
I,
a business, yeah, there's a business that's asking.
but I think it's incumbent upon us to provide the residents the opportunity to come forward in the name of transparency and give them that opportunity. If they don't show up, we've given them that opportunity. And I think we need to do it more than just at a public hearing. And as a study session, we can provide more information, more opportunity to discuss it. Maybe we'll tweak it a little more. And then if we're satisfied, we can move forward with the next step. I think that's a good suggestion, Martin.
You guys think?
So where are we on this? Are we doing a motion on this tonight?
I guess
I
I'd
think
be,
we're just waiting till we got two more to
I'd
speak
make a
up.
motion to,
You don't want to
table-
listen to
well,
the other two?
we can continue to talk about it, but I'd make a motion to table the item and set the matter for a study session at a future date.
I would support that.
Any discussion about that motion?
Yeah, when do you want to table it and when do you want to have this public hearing? Well, not the public hearing, the study session.
We should schedule it.
We should schedule, and the only reason I do that is we've had business owners, we have people wanting to invest in this, and whether we decide or not, which I know you're not against it, it is just making sure that we want to be transparent, we want to make sure we advertise it, saying that we're kicking the can down the road, it is, no, on this meeting or this date, we're having our study session. Then we can decide if we're going to do public hearing to let our business owners know what we're deciding and giving the most opportunity to our residents to come to it.
Right, good balance. I don't know. I mean, I'd say a couple of months to give us an opportunity to communicate this and research, come back with more information and be prepared to discuss it at a study session.
Sure. I would note this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance. It is supposed to be reviewed by the Planning Commission with a recommendation then to the Township Board. The Planning Commission reviewed this at a public hearing, made a recommendation to the Township Board. If there is going to be significant changes to this, it may require sending it back to the Planning Commission to have a hearing on those changes. So I don't know if you want to table it and keep it at the Township Board now, with the prospect of, after you've had your second go at it, so to speak, at your next meeting, being faced with the prospect of then having to send it back to the Planning Commission.
So the Planning Commission has already held a public hearing.
Right.
And then made a recommendation. The people
Right.
that we put in place to assess planning decisions made a recommendation. I assume they made a recommendation in the positive,
Correct?
right, in favor of this amendment.
My point was that if it sounds like from the discussion there may be some recommendations for amending the proposed ordinance that was reviewed by the Planning Commission. If those changes are to the extent that it would have to go back to the Planning Commission, that would just take more time. What I'm suggesting is, with the input of tonight, if you send it back to the Planning Commission now to do the public hearing on the proposed, have the discussion, and then maybe conduct a public hearing on the revised ordinance at that point, and then make the recommendation back to the Township Board on an ordinance that will have the input from tonight's discussion. It's just a suggestion. It may end up saving some time, but just a suggestion. I wanted you to be aware that if a significant change is made to the ordinance, you may be required to send it back to the Planning Commission.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Anything from Stephanie or Chris? On whether you'd want to do a study session and pick kind of within a time frame, or whether you'd want to go to a public hearing? What do you, because Patty's kind of looking for a guide.
Yeah, I mean, I'm,
Yeah, public comment was in the beginning.
I think that Treasurer Shostak made the point of pointing out that there's 3 out of, I think it's 12 or 13. The Planning Commission, we talked about it before it went to the Planning Commission, so I think that there's already been information percolating, and it's been out there. Obviously, that we're still going to have an additional hearing. So I'll just say I would be in favor of moving ahead and setting it for a hearing.
Public hearing.
Public hearing, yes.
But we already have a motion.
Oh, I didn't
we have a
realize that.
motion?
We
I don't know.
Aaron made a
Oh, we
motion.
did.
Just table it, and they were discussing the motion.
But you made that before we finished discussion. Like, I hadn't
Yeah,
said,
we're
like,
still
do we have a
discuss-
motion? Like, because we were still in discussion.
Well,
Like, I'm ready to
even
make a
now, so we're
motion. I said,
discussing it,
wait,
that's
we're in the middle
fine.
of discussion.
So I'm similar to Stephanie. I've heard from several people that this is a big change in our policy that the township invested in and was strong in their convictions 11 years ago, which makes sense to me. I've also heard most people are not opposed to this. It's a matter of questions not being answered and having more of a discussion and forum for not only business owners to discuss it, but any residents who may be opposed to it. Because as a few members have said, the only thing they've actually heard feedback from as residents is not to do this, not in favor of it. We also, as a board, asked you to do this. We asked you to inquire into it. You did it. You got the feedback from business owners. You got the feedback from the Planning Commission. So I don't want to be a barrier to good commerce and good investment from our business owners and people who pay good taxes to have good businesses here. I think based on the Planning Commission, they've put in a lot of rules and regulations based on what they think is right. And some of the things that were brought up by Martin, which I agree with the hours of operation. Seems to be able to be captured based on other things that you guys have thought of in the past, which is great. So I don't see a reason why we either wouldn't vote on it or have a study session so that we can all be on the same page, but I'm in favor of this. I don't see a barrier to it.
I guess I'm curious, I mean, we are the board, we're kind of the final say on this, and yet the planning commission put this together without input from us first. This was their first go at it. I think it does need work. It
You want
needs
to address that because he's making
It's not true.
conversation. Yes.
Well, he was on the planning commission, so I don't know if he went, because I just saw.
Well, but how well was the hearing? Okay, the planning commission had a hearing. How well was it advertised? How well was it attended? Are the residents even aware that it came up at the planning
it was
commission?
advertised, noticed the way it
It
always
met
is.
all of the requirements for
Common notice.
notification.
The same as
Standard notice.
we did the same notice for every public hearing. And sometimes you see like one person got them riled up the last time. They got a lot of misinformation, we met, and then they got real, and look how different it is when people get the right information. But no, I mean, Patti never slices corners. I will say, I thought I was a rule follower. You are like the ultimate rule follower when it comes to cutting corners. She doesn't cut corners.
Well, no, I know that. I trust Patti completely. I just was curious as to, was it well attended? What came out of the hearing? Was there anybody from the public that even attended?
No, it was not well attended.
Not well attended.
No.
We did have public comment, but it was not a packed room by any means.
But we initiated this in April. This one would be clear. At our April 8th meeting, we discussed it and then began the process by sending it to the planning commission, asking them to discuss it and craft something and make a recommendation to us, which is now coming back here. And then the next step is for us to hold a second public hearing. And then, at that point, we'd be in a position to amend the ordinance. But
Well, it's interesting what Mark said, that if we have notable changes, it would probably have to go back to the planning commission. So if we have our public hearing and there's multiple changes, it may go back to the planning commission anyways, because it came from there.
But the change that we liked is technically already in our, like, we all like the hours of operation, but that's already in something they have to apply for.
we make changes.
So we wouldn't, that's why I said, are we gonna put that in the ordinance? And they said that wouldn't go in the ordinance.
Well, we can put in the ordinance, and I think we should put it in the ordinance.
Okay.
Patty's point, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that for a special land use, we have the opportunity to add that in at that time. I'd rather have it in the ordinance for liquors directly there, because we don't have to all remember, to do it at that time.
I'm saying, I agree with you. We should.
Like a double protection.
Right.
Yeah, a double protection. So.
And just to be,
I wouldn't normally, and all those notices are great, and those are the notices that have been provided for the planning commission and this board, and other notices that we'll do if we set this public hearing, meet the minimum threshold. And I hoped I explained why I thought this was unique, why I thought we should do a little more in this instance, and I just don't overall see a rush for this. All the businesses that are here operating a gas station now were aware of these rules. They've been long-standing rules. As I said, I support a change generally, but I just don't want to move ahead too fast that the public generally aren't aware of it and aren't brought along in the process.
And again,
That's why I made the motion to table.
Yeah, and again, I think it's such a significant change that the residents need to have the opportunity, more than just a standard opportunity at a public hearing at the next step, that they are here. We've given them that chance to give us additional feedback, and I think it's important. I mean, I understand our concerns about our business owners, but to tell you the truth, our primary concern is to the residents. And certainly to business owners who do pay taxes, and they're important. But, we have 44,000 residents, and that's our primary responsibility is to.
Right. Well, we're a bedroom community, and we're over at 90% residential, so that has to be, I totally agree. I mean, our businesses are very, very important, but our residents has to be primary, and I think ample notification and no rushing, I think is how we should proceed.
I have one question, Patty, that's a little off topic.
Sure.
So there's 15. I was actually surprised to hear that there are 15 STD licenses. Since it's not gas stations, do we have 15 beer, wine, and liquor stores here, or who are these 15? I know we have at least 3 beer, wine, and liquor where literally their sole purpose is to sell alcohol, beer, and wine. But who are all these 15?
Kroger.
Like the wine guy. Okay.
Kroger.
Yes, grocery
Kroger.
stores, yes. So there's grocery stores, but there's also
Market, Zavaggio, Second Kroger,
some of the
Target.
Class C liquor license holders.
Yeah, we have one in Maple and
May also
Lasser,
have an
and we have one
SDM.
along Lake and
Some of our banquet facilities might also, our country clubs, they
Country
also may have an
Clubs can
STD.
take-
Yes.
Can we allow country clubs to
may.
do this?
Understand there wasn't provisions
reason that we
prior
allowed
to
country clubs?
1979 of how liquor was addressed in the township. Oftentimes liquor licenses were considered as ancillary uses to the permitted principal uses. So we didn't have references to liquor licenses until much later. So how those have evolved and come to be, it's going either farther back than Neil and I could go back. So,
But when we talked in like 2014 about kind of reining things in, they didn't think about even like country. Why wouldn't we have done like, if the fear was people are buying stuff and running rampant, why didn't we think about running in country clubs?
Why not?
I'm saying, why didn't we?
Why?
Well, because what's the difference where somebody picks it up? I guess that's my thing.
Well,
like, if you can go to the
club
wine
doesn't
shop.
have an STD.
Yeah, she just said they do.
I think they.
Why would a country club have
That's
an
what I'm
STD?
saying. Why would country clubs? Was there somebody with?
They have an
when we talk about-
they have an on-premise liquor license, but they
No,
don't have an
she's saying
STD.
they have one.
They also can have a.
That's why 15 is a big number when you think about who you
Well,
know
it's like,
selling this.
it's like Eddie Merlot's. You go there, you can buy a bottle.
Vital
and take
bottle,
it
yeah.
home.
But that's not a country club.
I understand.
So when we're talking about impetus of why would that not have been, was there a reason that people didn't think about that? Or why
No,
we,
good
why
question,
we
though.
ever
I mean-
started allowing wine, beer, and liquor only and not requiring them to be a
Now
convenience
that goes
store?
before me.
Here's I can share with you a list from 2009. And it was B&G Wine, Costco, Kroger's, Fox Hill, Medimart, Kroger, Rite Aid, Save-On Drugs, CVS, Beano's of Bloomfield, CVS, Andiamo's West, Brandy's, Costco, Kroger's, Fox Hill, Hollywood Market, Kmart, Plum Market, Kroger,
Kmart.
Rite Aid, Save-On
List is
Drugs,
old.
Bonnie's Kitchen, CVS, Birmingham Athletic Club, Oakland Hills Country Club, Birmingham Country Club, Watercraft Country Club. That was back in 2009. So it's been
interesting.
Oh, 09, right? Oh, lots have
09.
changed. So,
No, but when you talk about like the people picking why country clubs would be included was interesting.
So one of the things, everybody in the people that have some apprehension to this is about making sure that we notify and have plenty of time for our public to be present for it. We get to set the public hearing. It doesn't have, the
It doesn't have to
recommendation,
be like 2 weeks from
the
now.
recommendation
No, not at
is
all.
that meeting in October. We as a board could say, we can have it in November. Provide additional time, provide additional requirements for advertising, as Martin had pointed out, of how we advertise it, not just in the paper, put it in a newsletter or do these things. So these are things to help address some of those concerns where we can have the residents still here, but not necessarily impede the process. Would those be things that would make you be more in favor of this motion
To
or
be
no?
honest,
And
if
that's
there-
okay either
If
way.
there's an accusation that it is something being rushed before an election, I'm 100% okay with postponing it till after the election. Like, that's what I mean, like, it's actually a slap in the face, especially knowing that country clubs was left on the list last time by country club people. But, but no, but I'm just saying, if there's a minor attack right now coming, because that's what it's starting to feel like, because like your point of why would we ever get in the way of business owners unless there's a strange response that I'm starting to feel from a few. there's no rush from me
Oh,
to rush this through.
Nobody's making any accusations. I think you're projecting. Nobody has said
No,
that.
so I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody has said
We're asking just for a date, like Patti needs to know a date. So when you said study session, okay, when? Public hearing, okay, when? What would you like to do and what date is kind of what we're looking for?
Well, I think we're at the point where we're getting close to the election, and then if you move it into November, there's holidays, November, December, and so that's not a great
But
opportunity.
there's still a November and December board meeting. You can't.
True.
I mean, it's not like we stop business because there's 2 holidays.
And I mean, also, just to know, I mean, we've had very pressing topics, water rates, strategic planning.
In spring, yeah.
We don't have, not to say that we don't want to engage the community or we're not interested in hearing what they're saying, but, Treasurer Shostak's words are echoing in my mind that, I think, I don't want to say we're overthinking it, but I don't believe that we need a study session. I believe Trustee Kalinsky proposed a good, middle ground. Whatever that date ends up being, let's set it as a public hearing date. That would be my position, and I think let's just make a decision one way or another right now.
So your motion was to, you just want to table it, or did you want
Instead
to
of public-
extend-
instead of a
set
study
public
session.
hearing? So you want the
But
study
Chris's
session?
idea is a pretty good one. I mean, we could do it another, sort of skin my concern that another way, which if we set the public hearing for a date in November,
Yeah, like the
or
November 11th one is after.
we've got time to, communicate this through multiple channels and hear feedback between now and then. I'm good with that. I mean, that's my concern. That's what I want. I want people to have a chance to know about this. Same thing with the strategic plan. I mean, and I think I learned a lesson in the water rates. I mean, we thought we did everything we could. So
And just so
I
you
think,
guys know,
if we say
strategic
we'll set
plan
a
and
public
master
hearing-
plan are different. As Patti will tell you, the master plan is a 2-year process. I just want to get that out there because Barry Dunn is actually being affected by this, where that is their business. They're a national person. They know 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 6 months is normal. So we are not rushing the strategic plan.
So
I just need to stop that conversation.
well, we just could disagree on that.
But don't link it to this,
Yeah, we're
because
gonna
these
have
are
to-
two
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
different things. It was inappropriate to link.
But
It was
so
just
that way we
Stephanie
can.
brought up, so I was just responding.
Yeah, so and again, it provides some people who do have some questions or some additional information, some more time. It doesn't necessarily delay the process, but it doesn't also mean the process goes on. We can, at that public hearing, make their amendments based on what we're hearing from the public, from the business owners, from the board, and then make the decision at that time.
I think I can technically withdraw my motion with support from my second. I believe that's right.
Okay.
Can I-
Yeah.
You approve?
It was your motion.
Yeah, so as long
But
as.
you had seconded.
You
so
have to
need-
second it.
So
You have to,
You need
yeah.
your approval to
To
remove
withdraw
it.
the motion to table and set up
Yes,
a study session.
the way this
So
is
then
going,
do you
I'm
wanna make a
more in
motion,
favor of a
Chris?
November meeting than in October.
Chris, did you want to?
I think they're looking at a date.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Treasurer Shostak and I, so that there is no, I would like to have it in November. So this current board will still be sitting on the docket on November 11th after
Right.
the election. So we can either decide to do it on November 11th or November 25th. I would like to hear feedback from my colleagues of what day they think
The
would be best.
11th's good with me.
Are you sure? Because although it's after the election, it's still this board. And if you have any considerations that you want it with the next board, then it would be the second one. The second November date.
No problems with this board.
Okay.
Martin, does that
What
make?
about you, Martin?
Yeah, I
that
think
provide
that
you
gives
enough
us,
time?
I think that time is plenty to get it, to make a concerted effort to spread the word and if people have concerns to hear from them. So, yes, I'm fine with that day.
And Valerie?
Yeah, is this the kind of thing that we could put like in our newsletter or
Well, yeah,
e-news?
I was going to make that
idea.
amendment
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we would be
You can
putting.
do e-news on it first.
So we would do an E's News on it.
I just want the
obviously
residents
the
to have a
normal.
chance to know.
We
Just
could
see
do
if
it
they
more
have
than
a-
one e-news too, because e-news comes
We've got-
out every third.
Right, we've got multiple,
So-
we've got more time now.
So
Okay.
ensuring that, obviously Patti always does an amazing job with their public notices, but anything else we can do with it, whether it's sponsored ads, whether it is e-news, whether it is email blasting beforehand, so we can just get in front of some more eyeballs.
Sure.
So that it alleviates some of the concerns that people have.
I haven't even seen the draft in my article.
If we can make those, that would be my motion. So that we would be having our public hearing based on everything that's been said for the November 11th meeting.
Support.
Well, I think it's Martin's motion.
No, he withdrew.
He withdrew. He didn't make it. Okay. He withdrew.
I know, no, I
That's why I
was.
was like,
Withdrawing the
we're
motion.
supposed to
Oh,
be
we
able
can
to
vote on it.
Okay.
So, do you need to vote on withdrawing the motion?
I think we
I
do,
believe so.
actually.
Yes.
Okay.
So do you want to make
Oh.
a different motion?
I think we have
because
to
withdrew?
vote
We have
on
to
the
vote.
one.
No.
Can we vote on, so we have a motion to withdraw a motion?
Yeah.
And do we have a second
we
on
do.
that?
There was a second.
So all in favor of withdrawal?
Aye.
Aye.
All against? Okay, so that motion is withdrawn. Do you want to take a stab at another motion?
Sure, I would like to make a motion that we would set a public hearing for this on November 11th. As part of the public hearing, we'll be sending out additional e-news, sponsored ads on Facebook, and if we could take out any ads in the paper to try to get this in front of as many eyeballs as we can to help alleviate the transparency issue that some residents have always said, so that we can say that we've tried to fulfill that requirement to the best of our abilities.
Support.
Motion by trustee Kalinsky, support by trustee Faki. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
Thank you.
So next we have introduction to, wait, where am I at now? Introduction of proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance to allow indoor recreational restaurant uses and a liquor license.
All righty. So at that same April 8th meeting, the board also asked for the township to look at, our overall provisions for liquor licenses. And at the time, if you recall, I mentioned that we were approached by a business owner who wanted to present a hybrid proposal to us. And that was incorporating a full-service restaurant operation with a indoor recreational activity. And it was golf simulation with a full restaurant. And so the property owner, business owner, I should say business owner, met with the township and shared with you their interest and at the planning commission as well to invest in a new tenant called Tea Times. And it is for an indoor golf simulation activity with a full-service restaurant. When we considered the request and he identified that he has a current operation in Rochester Hills, we were reviewing our ordinance and found that we didn't have a provision that met this particular use. We have Class C liquor licenses and we have indoor recreational uses, but we don't have this hybrid, I guess if I'm referring to it. So looking at our current ordinances and building on the discussion that you all had back in April of looking at our liquor license provisions and uses, that the directive was look at how the provisions could be met with this specific type of use. We looked at our Class C and liquor license provisions. There are special land uses in the B2 and the B3 district. Cinemas, which is a form of entertainment or recreation, if you will, have Class Cs, and they're permitted as special land uses in the B2 and the B3. And so when we looked at what are some similarities to these provisions, the parallels to cinemas and other interior activities really could be mirrored with the language that we presently have, and especially as it relates to knowing that part of the proposal is that this would be found within a planned shopping center, and I think that's important, especially with relevant to this provision.
or this proposal of tea times is that within a planned shopping center, you have that opportunity for the shared parking study to support, the use, but also support the shopping center as a whole. That it be incidental to the principal indoor recreational use, meaning that, that license is an incidental component. And that, again, because this particular request is speaking to, that shopping center provision, I just want to make sure it's clear that, if there was a applicant that wanted to come to the township with another simulation, maybe it's basketball simulation, then it would have to be, as drafted, part of, it would have to be found within a tenant space within a planned shopping center. That is how we have proposed this. Should there be an interest to go beyond those criteria, that would have to be an amendment that would be sought out maybe at a later time when there was a discussion maybe of the overall liquor license processes. We've talked about pickleball, and we have had some examples where, or interest in pickleball, that they may want to have a liquor license, but unless that pickleball user was within a shopping center tenant space, this application would not apply. So I just want to make sure that's clear. That would mean we would go through the exercise and have to address pickleball specifically to this ordinance provision. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing relevant to the language that's right before you. It's very straightforward, specifically allowing for, in no doubt, that this is, considered a use that would be permitted in the B2 or the B3 district. That's where we have our shopping centers, so it's consistent by location. And also that the language itself, let me just get to that, that the language itself is then considered still a special land use, so being consistent with having that deeper layer of review to assure that there's no negative impact to adjacent properties or adjacent uses, and that the criteria that, it be intended to be that the sales of the, let me back up, that the Class C or tavern license use shall be for the sale of beer, wine, and or spirits for consumption on the premises as incidental to the principal indoor recreational restaurant use activity, meaning that it's the restaurant and it's the golf simulation, which is the primary or principal use, and the alcohol sales is the secondary or supportive or incidental use. And that same language is what we use with our theater or cinema classification as well. And if there's any question regarding that, then the township has the ability to require an affidavit from the licensee stating that the percentage of gross income during the past 12 months from the sale of non-alcoholic beverages, food, and non-food items, in no case that there would be more than 50% sales of the spirits. And so that's always an opportunity for the township board to want to have that information presented to you as part of consideration for their request. And then, again, going back to that shared parking study for shared parking for a shopping center, that I think that also is the ability for there to be success with that type of a hybrid use in the township, as not as a standalone building, but actually as part of a shopping center. I think there's more success in that, in the parking counts being able to be met. So we've presented this to the Planning Commission. They held a public hearing, forwarded on a positive recommendation onto the Township Board, and we're asking if so interested to set a public hearing date. I threw out October 14th, but should there be another date that interests you, we certainly could entertain that with the clerk's assistant.
Any questions or comments?
My only comment is the Planning Commission was extremely enthusiastic about this. It was a very well drafted policy, and I'm very excited about this. We have a great person coming into the township with a tremendous business background in restaurants, and he has his tea time in Rochester, and He's already demonstrated he works well with the community, and so I'm very supportive.
Anyone else? Do we want a motion?
You have a question, and I support this too. I think this is great. Are we doing the special land use approval now too, or is that do we need it? Because this will be amend the zoning ordinance to allow indoor recreational restaurant uses with a liquor license as a special land use. We'll have to do that after if we amend this, they have to come back to do the special land use at that time, right? Is that?
Yes, exactly.
procedurally?
So
Okay.
this is being presented in a parallel schedule, if you will. We're here tonight suggesting that you set a public hearing to consider adoption. At that meeting, we will also be scheduling the applicant's final site plan and special land use request. So should you adopt the provisions of the ordinance, then you'll be able to take action on their request for site plan review and special land use review. I know, there's also the Class C liquor license that the township also would have to approve. Now, whether that is merely introduced at that time and ultimately approved at a subsequent meeting date, that's all scheduling that I'll have to work with the Clerk Martin on. But that would be the intention, that we can't go forward with this site plan and special land use application that we have until the township board actually adopts this ordinance language. But the intention is to have that at the same meeting. Should there be successful passage of that ordinance, then the board will be able to take action on that site plan.
Can I make one request too, which is that we set it for either October meeting, whichever with expedience can get done, with
sure.
the license and the special land use and the notices we have to put in the paper and all that
Did you
stuff.
want-
I mean, we're going to aim for this day, but
Well, did you want to? Because this one actually does seem to be more rushed.
absolutely.
Right.
Yep, there's good business
Right.
reason
This
for it.
is, but I mean, it's just one business owner asking. Like, it's that same concept of, are you okay with not doing a study session on this one since it's
Oh, I see this
one
as
business
completely
owner
different.
requesting a liquor?
We make changes we make changes from time to time to fit a unique business opportunity.
This is the difference between apples
like
and
the
oranges.
Maple Theater
I'm just
or
making sure you're okay with that
yeah,
because
it's not
otherwise,
the same at all.
It's apples and oranges.
so
I do support this. I just want, and I want to get to the October 14th, but if there's some reason there's many hoops are going through and a lot of moving parts, the special land use, the alcohol license, the state's licensing process,
Yes.
investigation that they
That's
have
correct.
to do. Lots of things moving. I don't want to say the 14th.
you want to
if
say
there's,
the 28th?
I want to say, that one of the October meetings is administratively determined. I mean, something like that. I want to do it the 14th.
Do you need a specific date though?
Well, I can suggest, we could even, depending on the site plan and special land use, if the challenge is the liquor license process and then the state getting the application, that can occur subsequently. I think there's an interest by the applicant to secure approval for because of the limitations of the time frame for his due diligence with his landlord commitment.
Landlord issue.
Great,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. If maybe the license part slips,
Yes.
that's great. We
Okay.
can proceed on the 14th with the rest of it.
And I will certainly help as needed.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
The one concern I have about trying to do this on the same day is the ability to challenge a zoning ordinance by referendum and possibly delay that. So I think you could still do it, but you would have to make sure the motion on the site plan is contingent upon no challenge to the zoning ordinance taking effect.
I'll be happy to work with
So
you on
should
that
we-
language.
Should we do it the same day, or you're saying do one the 14th, do one the 28th?
If there's a time constraint, I would suggest going on the earlier date just to see
With both
if
of them.
it's going to be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, keep them together, but go at the earlier date in case,
Sure.
there's a time delay, in the effective date of the ordinance.
No, that's fine.
So I just had one statement, and I would love to make a motion on this. I love the language we put into it. It is not just about making sure that we get this great investment in our community. It's about making sure we have good ordinance for the next business that wants to come in. so that this isn't just tailor fit one business owner. This is about tailor fitting us to moving forward to being more attractive to other businesses. So I appreciate you taking the time so that we've done that. It's not just for one business, even though we're making sure we put the ball in motion for them. It is about attracting other business owners to invest in our community, which is what, based on the strategic plan, residents are asking for us to do this. So with that, I would love to make a motion.
Support.
Is there a date?
Yes, for the October 14th.
Motion by
Support,
trustee Clance.
I support it, and I agree with you. It's drafted in such a way that it will open up the doors for other business opportunities.
We have motion by trustee Kalinsky, support by trustee Barnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That does pass. So next we have number 8, consider draft language to amend state law of it for expansion of local control of Watercraft and to authorize elected officials to advocate for such an amendment.
It's like a
Clerk.
Cory,
Yeah.
item. So, I mean, we've been working on this for a while. Everybody here at this table, we're aware of this. The DNR, denied our appeal to allow the local township here to regulate watercraft, to limit them to electric only. In other words, no outboard engines. Our local residents want us to continue to work on this. I know that Supervisor Walsh, Treasurer Shostak, myself, we've all been in contact with representatives to advocate for an amendment to the DNR rules, which would allow greater local control over watercraft operational rules in essentially private lakes with no public access. And when sought after by such a high majority of lake access or lake waterfront owners. So to help move that along, this is an idea that we've drafted some language. Both Dirk and Mark have seen the language and there's many ways to skin this cat. What we're trying to do here is introduce into the DNR rules or statute a provision whereby we would be able to, and so would other local jurisdictions, be able to have greater influence over the regulation of watercraft on lakes that are within their jurisdiction. Once we have some language, it's just a lot easier for our legislators to go to the Legislative Bureau in Lansing and introduce something. They can just walk right up to a table and drop it down. So they have to do less work if we've done some work for them, which is what we've attempted to try to do here. So the request is that you all, as the board, support an amendment to the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act that will provide for significant local control concerning the operation of watercraft on, quote unquote, private lakes, and authorizes the elected officials to advocate for same on its behalf and to seek support from other local municipalities. I think we can think of others, pretty off the top of the head, or Ed Township, who would be very interested in also, contacting their representatives for the same purpose. So I spoke to 2 of them in the last couple of days, and they're eagerly looking forward to our language and want to move forward with it. So time might be ripe to make this effort, and I'm looking for the board's support. And then when we're talking to the local elected officials, we can say it's not just my opinion or Danny's opinion. This is the consensus of the board that we amend the DNR language, and so I'm asking for your support for the motion I just read.
Any questions? If not, I look for a motion.
I would do you have a question, Chris?
I don't have any questions. I just thank you so much for the. I just want to have a statement, and then I'll let you make the motion.
Oh, go ahead, make your statement. I thought it looked like you. Let's go.
No, thank you so much for the amount of time and effort you've done to put into this. Obviously, you guys have put so much time into going to not even advocate for our residents on what we were trying to do, and then appealing to the DNR and using legislative friends, calling in chips to try to do the best thing you can. So this is just one more way to show that we are trying to do what the residents are asking of us. So I just want to thank you for that hard work.
Thank you.
And with that.
Well, thank you, Trustee Kalinsky. So I would like to thank Clerk Brook for all of his work on this. He knows that the lakes are a passion of mine, and I would very much like to make the motion that we approve to amend the language.
Motion by trustee Murray.
Support.
Support by trustee Faki. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
Thanks, guys.
So next we'll go on to approve the payroll and vouchers for September 23rd. Unless there's any changes, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Barnett.
Support.
Support by trustee Kalinsky. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the last one is motion to adjourn.
Move, we adjourn.
Motion by Clerk Brook.
Support.
Support by Trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.